I can't do it. We'll do it live. Okay. Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Time to rise and grind.
Are you kidding me? Holy on smoke!
And let's get this banter going.
It's bacon!
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Does anybody else feel like a fried egg?
And it begins now.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell,
I think I just broke my chair.
He did what?
Has anybody ever told you you have a
Serious impulse control problem!
There is but one cause for me to follow. Almighty the bum!
And here we go.
Oh, yeah!
Good morning, and welcome to the latest and greatest edition of Snowman in the Morning, coming to you from North Carolina, the best sports talk show you haven't heard of until now. Follow along with us on social media by punching in SNW Digital Media for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest. You can also log on to snowmandigitalmedia.com for all of our great conversations from this show, as well as others produced by Snowman Digital Media, including the Daily BS, our podcast, the Full Press NBA show, and more. You can hear us every Monday through Friday on all of our great stations and networks, including the RTF Sports Network at rtfsportsnetwork.com, Arena Sportsnet at arenasportsnet.com, Western Reserve Digital Radio Network at westernreserveradio.com, to the great folks out in the state of Ohio. And we're heard in the Southwest at KSRN Arizona, ksrnaz.com, and of course our third flagship station, Full Press Coverage, at fullpresscoverage.com. You ready to get into it? Then let's start to finish out the week on some good notes. Normally I come in and I have something to open the show with, a little monologue about a subject that either got on my nerve or it made me happy. Most of the time, if it makes me happy, my beautiful Dr. K is involved, who's our engineer. But this time, I got a request from a very dear friend of mine who is in Cincinnati. I kind of said something that got on his nerve about one Kyrie Irving. And like I said, he's a very dear friend of mine. We haven't done this in a while, and we're going to make sure we start doing it every week. But he said, you know what? I don't like what you said about Kyrie. I want to come on your show and talk about it. I said, are you sure you want to do this? He said, yes, because I love you, but you made me mad with your comments on Kyrie Irving. Let's have some fun. One half of the wise guys and Trey Larkins, who is a proud papa. So we got to celebrate all the fathers here. Trey Larkins, who is a proud papa, and one half of the wise guys, is on with me to kick off the show. How are you, my friend?
Pretty good, Brian. How you doing?
I'm good. How's the baby boy?
Oh, he's doing well. He's doing well, man. He's in first grade, man. Growing up on me, man. Talking my head to death, but he's smart, man. But he's doing real good, man.
They grow like weeds, don't they?
They do. It's amazing, man. I was just telling him the other day about, like, man, I remember you was like 2 years old, man. I'm looking at baby pictures when he was 2 years old, and now he's 6 years old, heading to second grade next year, man. It's amazing.
I met my nephew when he was 3, when I moved back home to Chicago in 2001. Do you realize that kid's going to be 22 years old this year?
Wow, really?
He's going to be 22 years old. My little nephew, who I consider my son, he's going to be 22 this year. It's incredible.
It's incredible. Time goes fast.
It does, man.
It goes real fast.
Now, folks, y'all know I love picking on people when they come onto my show, but they pick back at me. Trey, I'm going to say something to you that's going to make you angry and make steam come out of your ears, but you know I do it in love, and I told you I'd have you on, so we talk about it. How many times have I picked on you about Kyrie Irving?
All the time. All the time. You're just disrespectful to my man, Kyrie, Brian. Just disrespectful.
Disrespect. And you're saying that while laughing. And you're saying that while laughing.
Man, I just, flabbergasted at the things that you say, being so disrespectful to a 6-time All-Star, a career scored 27 points per game, 22 points per game in his career. He had 27 in the finals in 2016, but you're just so disrespectful to one of the premier guards in the NBA, man.
Premier guards,
yeah.
my butt. He hasn't been a premier guard since June of 2016. And the next year he got cooked in the World Championship Series. Notice if you notice I don't say NBA Finals anymore. I say NBA World Championship Series.
Yeah. But at that time though, Kyrie, shortly after the NBA Finals, he wanted out of Cleveland. So he wasn't really happy in that, 2017 NBA Finals with LeBron. He wasn't really happy at that time. Here's the thing, though, Brian.
Because he got cooked.
You always. But here's the thing, though. It's funny that you say that because every single time when I watch Kyrie Irving go up against your man, Steph Curry, Kyrie Irving outplayed Steph Curry.
Except in 2017.
Yes, 2016 he did. And could you admit that?
Because there was a Okay, here's where I invoke Stephen A. Smith, and I know I'm going to make you laugh with this. Cleveland got a stimulus package from all get out in 2016, and doggone it, you know it.
Yes, I'll agree. I'll agree that
they got a stimulus package in 2016.
I didn't agree with Draymond.
Now, I will say this. At least Kyrie had the gonads to take the championship-winning shot in 2016. I will give you that. Why hasn't he taken a shot like that since then? This was one of my assertions on my show.
Yeah.
This is like your assertion. Here's where I pick on you again. This is like your assertion of Aaron Rodgers coming for the 49ers in the Bay, and you knew they had no chance in hell of winning that game in January.
You're right. You're right about that, Brian. You're right about that. But here's the thing, though. Okay. In that 2016 NBA Finals, Kyrie averaged 27 on 47% shooting.
Yep.
Kyrie Irving was the driving force for the Cleveland Cavaliers. LeBron James also played a part in that. I know you're not a LeBron fan
but my assertion is Kyrie should have been named the unanimous Finals MVP, not LeBron.
Really?
Kyrie.
Really? So you think
Kyrie should have been the most valuable player in that World Championship Series in 2016. Period. That's my assertion. And I said on my show, and I want your take on this. The same shot that made him also broke him. And that was that championship-winning shot over Steph Curry.
Yes, I could understand what you said from that perspective, but I disagree with you about Kyrie Irving being NBA Finals MVP. I think LeBron James deserved NBA Finals MVP, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
I believe LeBron James was the best player in that 2016 NBA Finals. I believe that Kyrie Irving was the closer for the Cleveland Cavaliers. He hit the biggest shot of the finals. But I believe when you break down the entire NBA Finals, LeBron James was by far and away the best player on the floor. Listen, I know you're not a LeBron fan. This is kind of weird for you because you're very critical of Kyrie and you're not a LeBron fan. So let me ask you a question. Who deserves the credit for the Cavaliers coming back from a 3-1 lead on your Warriors? Who deserves the credit for it?
Adam Silver. I bet you never had that answer.
That's a good one. That's definitely a good one.
You want me to pick? I've been waiting to use that one on you for 2 years. Okay.
But in that final, that was a good one, Brian. In that finals, though, LeBron James, he averaged 30 points per game, 11 rebounds per game, 9 assists. He nearly averaged a triple-double.
So what? So
You're
what?
not a LeBron fan.
He did the same thing in 2017, and they got blasted.
But you knew they were going to. But here's the thing, though, Brian. You didn't expect them to beat the Warriors with Kevin Durant in 2017.
I didn't expect them to beat them without Kevin Durant in 2016. What's your point?
Me either. But I'm making. What I'm saying. Once Kevin Durant arrived in Golden State, we knew the Warriors had a superior team over everyone in the NBA.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, in 2016, I believe LeBron James, averaging a triple-double in the NBA Finals, deserved NBA Finals MVP. But I agree with you from the standpoint of the NBA did give the Cavaliers a stimulus package because I don't believe Draymond Green should have got suspended in Game 4.
If you want to look at the letter of the law, in terms of playoff technicals, if you were going to suspend Draymond Green, that should have been done in the Western Conference Finals, not the World Championship Series. Look at the letter of the law when it comes to technicals. That should have been done in the series against Oklahoma City. Okay? You suspend Draymond Green in the series against Oklahoma City, and it should have been for the game 5. You suspend him for Game 5 of that, Oklahoma City walks all over him in Oakland. But because LeBron decided to open his mouth and put Draymond's foot in it, almost literally, Adam Silver had no choice, receiving all the backlash from the Cavalier fans, and I'm blaming him too, doggone it. He had no choice. He did have no choice but to act and suspend Draymond for Game 5. Because had he not suspended Draymond for Game 5, it was a cakewalk. It was a cakewalk.
It would have been over. It would have been over. I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. But I also believe, though, Brian, tell me if you agree with this or not. I believe LeBron James baited Draymond Green to get in that technical foul. He knew if Draymond got one more technical foul that he was going to be
LeBron waits until after Game 4 to dry snitch, after they got cooked in their own house.
I believe,
which is what happens. Which is what happened. The Warriors cooked the Cavaliers 108-97 in Game 4. So LeBron waits until after the game and sends all this to the media, which is another reason why I'm very critical of LeBron. But that's another ball game. But all right, you got a point. You got a point.
I agree with you because I believe that LeBron James knew at that point, being down 3-1. Their chances were slim.
They were toast. They were toast.
Yeah, it was over.
Yes.
It was over. So that's why I believe he baited Draymond Green to get that technical foul.
Yeah, but see, Adam Silver should have had the nuts not to listen. He should have. Yeah. See, had this been. And you're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Here's another reason why I'm very critical of Kyrie. And it goes like this. He got Kenny Atkinson fired. And Kenny Atkinson is not the reason that the Nets are in the hole that they're in. You only see Kyrie for 20 games, and he was completely healthy when he came over from Boston. Here's the other problem that I have with Kyrie. His attitude stinks. Now, I know I'm going to get you all upset by saying this, but you got to look at it. You got to look at it real. His attitude since he left Cleveland stinks.
Yeah, but I believe. Okay, so let's go back to last year, right? Let's go back to last year when he was in Boston. Last year at the beginning of the season, head coach Brad Stevens he inserted Gordon Hayward into the starting lineup immediately. Once he was back healthy, they had Gordon Hayward starting. I believe that caused a rift in that locker room in Boston because you had players like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. They felt like the year before, we just got to the Eastern Conference Finals against LeBron James, Game 7, one game away from the NBA Finals.
Yeah, 12 minutes.
You're going to insert Gordon Hayward back into the starting lineup.
Yep.
I think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and other players on that Boston Celtics team last year had an issue with Brad Stevens coaching and putting him in the starting lineup, Gordon Hayward. Because Gordon Hayward and Brad Stevens, they go back since Butler. He coached him at Butler.
Right. He was his coach at Butler.
That's part of the reason why he started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why he put him back in that starting lineup. I think everyone wants to blame Kyrie for all the issues that happened last year in Boston because it's convenient. But I believe it was two parts to it. I believe two things can be true. And I believe the fact that Gordon Hayward was inserted into the starting lineup and Kyrie's issues that he had with leadership, those were the reasons why the Boston Celtics struggled last year. But everybody conveniently blamed Kyrie Irving.
Well, duh. Kyrie Irving was injured. Kyrie Irving couldn't play worth a damn. And Kyrie couldn't stay on his feet. Of course, I'm making this up as I go along just to mess with you.
But it was too. But what I'm saying is, do you buy that? Do you buy that Gordon Hayward going back into the starting lineup? Do you buy that was part of the reason why Boston struggled with chemistry last year as well?
No, I'm not buying that at all. I'm not buying that at all, and here's why. His name is Terry Rozier. Terry Rozier was great with them, minus Kyrie in the lineup, and you put Gordon Hayward back in the lineup. I'll say it again. And I'll continue to say it until I see differently. And, of course, at any time, the proof can show me, and make me change my mind. Okay? His attitude. I have nothing against his skills. Nothing.
Right.
Okay? I'm talking about his attitude. I'm talking about Kyrie having the same kind of gonads now that he had in Cleveland in 2016. That's the Kyrie Irving I want to see.
Okay, I got a question for you, Brian. You said you brought up Terry Rozier. While I do agree with you that Terry Rozier was a key contributor to the Boston Celtics the year when they went to the Eastern Conference Finals and they lost to LeBron, I agree with you about that. He was a key contributor on that team.
Absolutely.
But are you really going to sit up here and tell me that Terry Rozier is better than Kyrie Irving?
I just did.
Terry Rozier. You say what?
I just did. What's the problem?
Terry Rozier is not better than Kyrie Irving, Brian.
I know.
You know it, and I know it. And Terry Rozier knows it. Terry Rozier knows it.
But see, here's the problem. How come Terry Rozier got all the key minutes, key shots, key chances, and succeeded when it counted? I'm talking about April and beyond, and Kyrie Irving didn't get a chance to prove any of that. Well, I know one of the answers. He was injured, and I understand that. But still, I'm talking. It goes back to the point I made on my show Monday. Attitude. I want to see the Kyrie Irving that was not afraid. Okay, and until that part, until A, he stays healthy, and B, he shows no kind of fear that he had when he was with Cleveland, LeBron or not, I'm going to be critical of him, and that's the end of that.
Fair enough. I respect that. Here's the thing. I respect it. And I'm going to say this, too. When you talk about this situation in Brooklyn, let's just call it what it is. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, they didn't want Kenny Atkinson as their head coach. Now, I believe that Kyrie Irving was more of the driving force to get Kenny Atkinson out of town than Kevin Durant. I kind of get that feeling. I don't know. I think Kevin Durant, while he's a supreme talent, I believe that Kyrie Irving, his personality, he was the one that told KD, like, hey, man, I ain't really feeling Kenny too much. Let's get him up out of there. And I think KD just signed off on it. With all that being said, this is how the NBA works, Brian.
I know.
When there's superstars that go to a particular franchise, the entire culture changes.
Yes.
The entire culture changes. And that's exactly what happened in this situation.
But see,
Kenny Atkinson was doing well with the Nets last year when they were rebuilding and they overachieved.
But then I have this question for you. And we'll go to a break with this. I have this question for you. If that is the case, that when superstars get together and they're not really feeling the coach, they get the coach out of there, why didn't that happen in Oakland with Steph and Clay and KD? Why didn't that happen in Oakland? If you want to bring KD into the conversation, and hell, we both did, let's just be honest, why didn't that happen in Oakland? Why didn't it happen in the Bay?
Answer that for me. Because when Kevin Durant arrived in Golden State, the Warriors had already been to 2 straight finals appearances.
All right.
So it wouldn't have made any sense to make a coaching change
I'll
at
agree
that
with
time.
that. You got a point. You got a point. Let's pause for a break. Trey Larkin's kicking off the show with me. We got more stuff for you. We're going to have a football conversation, and I get to pick on them again. Snowman in the morning. Back in a flash.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
Welcome back to the morning show that will get your day going. We call it Snowman in the Morning. We're live here in Durham, North Carolina. Log on to snowmandigitalmedia.com for all of our great shows and podcasts. And remember, the podcast of this show is available 1 hour after its completion. The best parts of the show scrunched into 60 minutes or less. Trey Larkins joining me. And now that he's picked back at me about Kyrie Irving, I get to pick back at him about Aaron Rodgers. You posed a question before we came on the air. Should the Packers... I shouldn't do this joke, but I'm going to anyway, just to mess with him, and y'all know I am. Should the... I can't even do it. Should the Packers draft... You know where I'm going, right?
Yeah, I know where you're going.
Should the Packers draft a quarterback to replace Aaron Rodgers? My heart of hearts says no, but a part of me says yes because Aaron Rodgers is getting old, even though he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. But you want to drop some criticism? Take a look at 2 meetings in the Bay. There's your criticism right there. In 2 big games, one a playoff game, one a regular season game against who eventually became the top seed in the NFC, Aaron Rodgers was subpar. And I know there was a lot going on at that time. First-year coach, different parts, no Jordy Nelson, all that stuff, and I understand that, and they still went 13-3. But when the lights were on the brightest, Aaron Rodgers came up missing. Simple as that.
Well, to respond to that, it's a 2-part question.
Okay.
First, I'll address Aaron Rodgers' performance last year against the San Francisco 49ers. That's the San Francisco 49ers.
I'm going to love this.
Yeah, because, Brian, you always messing with, you know good and damn well, this is an elite defense. That San Francisco 49ers team last year defensively was one of the best defensive teams we've seen in NFL history. Like, I think they had records as far as passing records, like the teams threw the least amount of pass yards on that particular defense. That team was great defensively.
Yes.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Aaron Rodgers, while he did struggle in the 2 appearances against the 49ers, it wasn't all Aaron Rodgers' fault. Part of that issue was because the thing we lacked a second consistent receiver.
Yeah.
Other than Devontae Adams, there was no one else that was getting open for my Packers. So Aaron Rodgers' weapons were limited. So that made Aaron Rodgers limited. I believe Aaron Rodgers did the best he could with what he had. In the regular season game, he played terrible. I mean, the entire offense played terrible. We didn't have a chance.
Yeah, but 5 plays in, y'all fumbled. I'm going back to the regular season game, week 14. Week 12, I beg your pardon, week 12. Yeah, and I know y'all lost Brian Balaga for a long time. 5 plays in, Aaron Rodgers dropped the football. Aaron Rodgers saw the gold. Greg Papa calls him the gold rush, and all hell broke loose after that. And I love the explanation you gave to me the last time I had you on, when you told me for the NFC Championship you had your Packers garb on and you were dressed to the nines and you were ready, but your heart of hearts knew, and I quote Trey Larkins, folks. I knew we had no chance in hell to win that game.
I did say that. I said that. But here's the thing. When it comes to overall Aaron Rodgers, I believe Aaron Rodgers, he didn't have a bad year last year, Brian. I mean,
he didn't.
He didn't have a terrible season last year. We also had Aaron Jones, our running back, who helped us on offense. Devontae Adams missed 6 games. He still had a season where he had close to over 1,000 receiving yards. But last year, Aaron Rodgers had 26 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, through over 4,000 passing yards. That's not really a bad season.
It really is. It really isn't a bad year. It really, and I give you that. It really isn't a bad year. 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That's really not a bad year. But I'll say it again. Unlike 2016, when the lights were brightest, Aaron Rodgers went missing.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I'm gonna say this. I believe that in the offseason, my Packers, we have to get Aaron Rodgers. a consistent second receiver. And also, I believe we need to get more production from our tight end.
Mm-hmm.
It was reported earlier today, or it might have been yesterday, that I seen that Jimmy Graham was released. So we moving on from Jimmy Graham.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy about that. Thank God we moving on from Jimmy Graham because he was terrible.
This is the same man, folks. This is the same man who put a post on Facebook a week before the NFC title game that said Jimmy Graham was the more proven tight end. We had the more proven quarterback, and y'all got lambasted.
I know. I said it. I said it. But damn it, look, Brian. me and you can run faster routes than Jimmy Graham. But I think it's time for Jimmy Graham to hang him up. Like, man, it was time to move on from Jimmy Graham.
Yes. But see, why didn't y'all prepare for Raheem Mostert?
That's another thing. Defensively, Aaron has nothing to do with defense. He can't play defense.
Y'all could not. Listen, folks, you saw that NFC title game. As Joe Buck was saying on the 49ers' second drive, as Joe Buck was saying, somehow and I quote, somehow the ball winds up in the hands of Mostert. He's gone. Touchdown San Francisco. I'm going crazy running around the house, and you'll love this. I'm going crazy running around the house celebrating. My wife is laughing at me. You should have known then the game was over.
That's true. That's true. That's true. But I think the thing is, though, when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, and you know I'm right when I say this, I believe we judge Aaron Rodgers according to Aaron Rodgers' standards. He doesn't get judged like the rest of the quarterbacks. He gets judged according to his standards because he's been great throughout the course of his career. But to answer the question about whether or not I believe we should draft a quarterback in this year's draft, and I know Aaron Rodgers, he wouldn't want to hear this, and he actually said that, quote, I quote Aaron Rodgers, the great Aaron Rodgers. He said, no one's going to beat me out anytime soon. This may hurt his feelings, but I believe the time to draft a quarterback is now.
Yeah.
Because when we drafted Aaron Rodgers during the tenure when Brett Favre was in Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers actually right now at age 36 is a year older than Brett Favre was when we drafted Aaron.
Yes.
I believe if there's somehow a way where this kid, Jordan Love, out of Utah State, if he falls to my Packers, I believe you have to draft Jordan Love. Jordan Love in 2018, Brian, he had 32 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, threw close to 3,500 passing yards, completion percentage 64. Last year he regressed, 20 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, but he had a new coaching staff.
Right.
So that was also part of the reason why he kind of regressed. I believe that Jordan Love is a can't miss in this NFL draft, and if you have a chance to draft him and be the heir apparent to Aaron Rodgers, you have to take that chance.
Do you think Jordan Love is that much of a wild card for this year? I think he is. I think he is.
Yes. Yeah, I like Jordan Love. And I watch film on Jordan Love. So when you watch film, you look to see, can they make the throws? Can they be accurate? Can they throw the deep ball? He has all of the physical tools. Now, some of his mechanics he has to work on, and if he has a great coaching staff that can help him build up, his mechanics and being able to lead a team, things like that. But as far as the physical tools,
the raw talent is there. The raw talent is there.
The raw talent is there. Yes, it's there. Like, he's mobile. Now to be an elite quarterback in the NFL, you have to be able to be mobile. You can't just stand in that pocket. You can't be a stationary target, So I believe Jordan Love has the skills to be an elite quarterback in the NFL. So if my Packers have a chance to draft him in the first round of the draft, I would want them to take that opportunity.
Here's a strong point that I love about Jordan Love. When he rolls to his left, kind of like Aaron Rodgers, and he's able to throw against the grain, and I mean with some accuracy. That's one of the things, besides the deep ball, the touch he puts on the deep ball, the mobility, and you said it best, mobility is a big key for playing quarterback in the NFL. It's like him rolling to his left and just launching one with some accuracy. Now, with the defenses being faster and bigger and getting after him more, he's probably going to be doing that a lot more. But, as crazy as this sounds, I see a lot of Patrick Mahomes in Jordan Love. And I'm talking about with the misdirection. I'm talking about with throwing against the grain, because if anybody aside of Aaron Rodgers right now throws against his grain a lot, it's Patrick Mahomes. But he's accurate with it.
Yes, I completely agree with you. And speaking of the NFL draft, I wanted to ask you, Brian.
Yeah.
We got a lot of quarterbacks. We got a lot of quarterbacks going into this draft this year. We got Tua, we got Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, Justin Herbert. A lot of quarterbacks in this NFL draft. Who do you believe is the quarterback, you say 15, 20 years from now, that we'll say was the steal of the NFL draft, was the best pick as far as quarterbacks goes?
I have two. Jordan Love is one, Justin Herbert's the other. And I'll explain why. Cincinnati has a porous offensive line. It's going to take them at least 5 years to get that situated because, hey, it's the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't trust Tua because of his health at the present time. I don't trust Tua because of his health. Jordan Love and Justin Herbert have the best chance to be the steals of the draft if the right teams draft them. And I'm talking about teams that already have an offensive line in place, teams that have the receivers in place, teams that have, I hate to say this to you, Trey, but something your Packers don't have, a consistent running game. If all that's in place immediately, then the right team that drafts either of these two quarterbacks will have the steals of the draft.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I want to address something real quick that you just said. You said my Packers don't have a running game. Did you not see the emergence of Aaron Jones last year?
No, because he got swallowed up by Nick Bosa and Eric Armstead and the guys across my front line.
Those are two games. Those are two games.
And you surrendered 74 points in those two games. You want me to really pick at you? You surrendered 74 points in those two games.
Yeah, but you're right. But Aaron Jones doesn't play defense. Here's the deal. Last year, for my Packers, when you talk about offensive player MVP, because Devontae Adams missed 6 games.
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones will be the offensive. Yes, for my Packers. But I want to get back to the NFL draft. I'm one of those people, Brian, that believe the Bengals will be making a mistake drafting Joe Burrow.
I agree.
With number 1 overall.
I agree.
Okay.
They don't have the pieces in place.
Yeah.
They don't have the pieces in place for Joe Burrow.
That too, but I also I don't really believe that Joe Burrow is going to be an elite quarterback at the next level. I think that Joe Burrow had one great year where he had a great supporting cast.
Yeah.
Great supporting cast.
Yep.
He had the quarterback coach and Joe Brady that was leading him. He also had, at the receiver spot, Ja'Marr Chase, Justin Jefferson. He had Clyde Edwards at the running back spot. He had a great offensive line. I believe Joe Burrow is going to be a one-year wonder. He had one great year at LSU, and all of these Bengal fans around here, because I live in Cincinnati, all of these Bengal fans around here are pretending as if Joe Burrow
and they're enamored with him.
Second coming. Yes, they believe that he's going to be the second coming of Boomer Esiason. They believe that Joe Burrow is going to be an all-time great quarterback, and I just don't see it.
There's only one Boomer Esiason. There's only one Kenny Anderson, okay? And Andy Dalton, and I hate to say this about Andy Dalton, he didn't deserve to wear number 14. Kenny Anderson's the only one that should have worn number 14. Just like Boomer Esiason's the only one that should have worn number 7 for the Bengals. Okay? If the Bengals pick Joe Burrow, I believe it will be a mistake. A big mistake.
Yes, I agree. We agree there. I agree there. And here's the thing. I believe that Bengal fans, and I think the Bengal fans and the Bengals organization, they are psyching themselves out to believe, or they're giving themselves false hope that Joe Burrow is going to be the savior. The reason why they're doing that is Joe Burrow is their only option. Like, they're desperate. Like, I was sitting there thinking about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars, they're going to be You got the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're a franchise.
Why are you putting the Jaguars in this conversation, man? We were having a good football conversation, and then you mentioned the Jacksonville Jaguars. What the hell?
I know. But I was saying that because the NFL there's been rumbling, discussions about the NFL, having the Jaguars move to a different city. I know look, think about what I'm about to say here, Brian. Let me know what you think about this. If the Bengals struggle over, let's say, the next 4 or 5 years, is there any scenario, or would you believe there would be a situation where the NFL would have the Bengals leave Cincinnati? I believe it's possible.
Hell no.
That's why I think.
Hell no.
Why wouldn't they? What's here?
The Bengals ain't the Jaguars, okay? The Bengals at least have 2 Super Bowl appearances, both in the 80s, but I digress. The Jaguars have not been close to a Super Bowl.
But what have you done for me lately? What have you done? That's all I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I think this is my overall point, though. I believe the Bengal fans know that Joe Burrow is their only hope. He's their only hope because now that they have Zach Taylor as their head coach, right? They're essentially in rebuilding mode, and there is not an elite quarterback that's going to walk through that door. Nobody comes to Cincinnati and signs in free agency. So
True.
Who are you going to get to lead your team at the quarterback position?
So in other words, you're comparing the Cincinnati Bengals to the New York Knicks because no one will take their money either.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Because nobody wants to take the Knicks' money. The Knicks have been offering money for years, and no one wants their money.
The Knicks have been offering money since 1999, and no one will take it.
Yeah, right. But I think the only difference in the Knicks and the Bengals is, obviously, it's basketball, football. But other than that, I will say that Dolan and the Knicks, they offer the money. Stars just don't take it. Mike Brown is cheap as hell. He doesn't even offer free agents money.
This is true.
This is true. I remember a few years ago. Yeah, I remember a few years ago. The Bengals had AJ Green, they had Mohamed Sanu, and they had Marvin Jones.
Yep.
Mike Brown didn't bring back Mohamed Sanu or Marvin Jones. He let both of them walk.
Yep.
Yes, he let both of them walk. I thought they should at least brought Marvin Jones back.
And then there's the Vontaze Burfict thing.
Yes.
then there's the Vontaze Burfict thing. Okay?
Yeah.
If 2016 didn't teach the Bengals anything, you shouldn't have signed Vontaze Burfict. I don't care how great of a player Mike Brown thought he was. The playoff game against Pittsburgh should have taught him everything you needed to know about Vontaze Burfict.
I agree with you about that. But let's transition back to the NFL draft.
Right.
I want to say this real quick. The quarterback that I believe will be the best in this NFL draft, and we look back many years from now on who was the best quarterback prospect, I believe, based on if he's healthy, it will be Tua. Because when you look at Tua, back in 2018, he had 43 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, threw for close to 4,000 passing yards, completing 69% of his passes.
Right.
2019, before he got injured last year, 33 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he threw for over 2,800 passing yards. So I believe if he stays healthy, that Tua can become an elite quarterback in the NFL for future seasons to come.
We'll just have to see. Trey Larkins starting off the show with yours truly during hour number 1. When we come back, we got some more stuff for you. Hang tight. Snowman in the morning, back in a flash.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
Did you not get the memo? Holy on smoke!
Welcome back to Snowman in the Morning. Trey Larkins riding shotgun with me for hour 1. Hey, join the Patreon. Go to patreon.com, patreon.com/SIT Morning to support not just this show, but all the other shows being produced as we bring real sports talk back to the airwaves. And speaking of real sports talk, there was something that came down Wednesday night that has shocked me. And everyone is talking about the coronavirus. And when my wife and I went to work early one morning, I thought, okay, this is only going to be in the political realm. Well, I got a slap in the face because this note came down last night, courtesy of CBS Sports. The NBA has suspended the 2019-2020 season after a Jazz player tests positive for coronavirus. And that player reportedly is the Stifle Tower Rudy Gobert. The games that played Wednesday night finished, but until then, nothing. I think this is a good move. The fans would be in jeopardy were they to come into the arenas because the NBA issued a statement that the games would be played in empty arenas to prevent an outbreak. But now after this, with Rudy Gobert, everything is ground to a halt. We'll start there. Trey, your thoughts?
Well, Brian, this is some unbelievable news that we found out last night. And when it first came down, I was in total shock. Like, I was in total shock. When all the reports and they were talking about the coronavirus all week last week and, the beginning of this week, I was talking to my dad and my dad's wife about it, and I really wasn't taking it serious. I kind of was like, man, I know it was serious, and I know people are, this is a big deal. But now that all these things are coming down, and, in the sports world, like, this is really a big deal. And a lot of times for me, things have to hit home before I start taking them serious. But now that I'm starting to see everything that's taking place and more people are being diagnosed with the coronavirus, this is more serious than I originally thought.
Yeah.
I just thought at first it was something that would go away. It won't stay around too long. But now that the NBA has canceled the rest of the season until further notice, it shows you the severity and the seriousness of this outbreak of the coronavirus. It is a big deal. And I got to be honest, I got to shout out my dad and his wife, because his wife, her name is Dana, because they were telling me how serious it was. And I just was, just kind of not even thinking about it, just going about my own day. But it's definitely a big deal.
Yeah. And this should give a wake-up call to everybody. My wife gave me a wake-up call about it, saying, basically the same thing. This is going to get real serious. And she's been in the health industry for a long time. Okay, and she told me some of the symptoms that produces coronavirus, and it comes down to some simple caretaking. Wash your hands after you come out of the bathroom. Wash your hands many times over. Okay, and now to have the NBA suspend its season, and not only that, to have NCAA tournament games played without fans. And I have the feeling that this upcoming tournament is not only going to be suspended, but canceled. I have this feeling this is going to not only hit home, if it hasn't already, this is going to provide a long-lasting effect. And, folks, Trey and I will tell you, if this doesn't wake you up about your life, about how you should get your health in order, it better do that now. It better do that now.
I completely agree with you. Yes, I agree with you. And here's the thing, though. I thought about this earlier, and now we've come to that place. I thought earlier that it would be very significant for the NBA to suspend the season.
Yeah.
But, and the reason why I thought that, Brian, was because the NBA, they don't want to lose money.
No.
At the end of the day, it's a business. This is a business.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're suspending the season, you're losing money from your customers. So I thought about that, earlier this morning when I woke up, and yesterday when I heard the news, I said, for it to get to this point where the NBA has suspended the season until further notice, it shows you the severity of the coronavirus.
Yes.
Because the NBA, they're in the business of making money. They're in the business of being a, top organization as far as, income every year. And for this to happen and for them to suspend, play until further notice, it just shows you the severity of the coronavirus. And this is something serious that we need to take serious in. something we can't play around with.
One of my buddies, Ian Glendon, the man in charge of full press coverage, dropped me a note after that story dropped that the NHL could be next. You have to believe that not only the NHL, but Major League Baseball as well, because a couple of colleges have already canceled their spring season sports amidst the outbreak of the coronavirus, which has now been termed a pandemic. Man, there are a lot of wake-up calls going on right now, man. A lot of wake-up calls going on right now.
Yes, it is. This is serious. This is definitely serious. And, to be honest, though, now that everything has come down and the NBA has suspended, the season until further notice, now, to be honest, Brian, we have to just sit back and relax, because we want everyone to be healthy. We have to take sports is not as important as people health.
No.
That's more important. That's the most important thing. So
yes.
now
yes,
we have
yes,
to take
yes.
a step back. Yes, and that's the most important thing now. Sports is the farthest thing from our minds now.
Yeah.
We just want to protect our family, and we want everyone, wash their hands, make sure they're sanitizing very well.
Yes.
So now that's where our concerns need to be now, just as far as keeping everybody safe away from this coronavirus. And sports is the farthest thing away from sports fans and players. That's the farthest thing away from our mind at this moment.
Yeah, it really is. And you and I both being parents, we have children to protect too. We got families to protect. Reputations as men to protect. So if we don't spread this message here, then it does no good. You and I kicked off this hour, talking about your baby boy, and I know that has to be the closest thing to your heart right now.
Oh, yes, for sure. And I already told my son's mom, I told her yesterday, I said, hey, if we find any cases in Cincinnati, I live here in Cincinnati, if we find any cases here locally in the Cincinnati area in any of the schools, I'm not sending Trey Muir to school. I don't want him to go to school. I don't want him to go to school. I want him to stay home with us until further notice. Mm-hmm. Because if the NBA is suspending the NBA season until further notice, that shows you the severity of the coronavirus. So therefore, if any kid in these schools get the coronavirus, they can easily pass it to another kid. I don't want my son going to school having to deal with that.
No. Don't want anything, any symptoms or anything having to do with the coronavirus to spread to anybody. What it hit me first when I saw all the notifications coming out when I got here in the studio earlier today to get some stuff scheduled, that the NCAA were playing its conference tournament games without fans, and then literally 180 seconds later, a notification came to me that no fans would be allowed in the arenas for the NCAA tournament. You said about the NBA that it's a business and they're in the business to make money. Well, so is the NCAA, and given the fact that this is the high point of their basketball season, they're going to lose a ton of money.
Yes, I agree with you. But I will say this, Brian. It wouldn't surprise me if there was somehow, some way, a cure for the coronavirus within the next week or so.
Yeah.
Because now these major sports leagues are losing money.
Yep.
And we all know that's the bottom line in sports. We love competition.
Right.
We love the relationships that these players build with coaches and fans. We
Yep.
love all that stuff.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, the bottom line, these leagues are in the business of making money. That's what it's all about. So if that is being compromised, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if there was a situation where a cure or a vaccine came about within the next week or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They can't keep losing money. They don't want to keep losing money. So we'll see what happens.
And again, sports is the furthest thing from our minds right now. To all the folks that have tuned into this show, as we talk about this, as we talk about the news that was handed down yesterday, the NCAA playing without fans in the arena, they're likely headed for an indefinite suspension. The NBA said they're going to be in an indefinite suspension. NHL could be next. Major League Baseball could be next. It's a complete shutdown or indefinite suspension. I don't want to say shut down, but this could be an indefinite suspension that will take a long time to recover from. But I would rather have the fans and the players make a full recovery. And if we have to delay everything, so be it. Let's just let's just pray for the folks that are contracted with it right now, that a cure comes to them and everyone comes out and comes back healthy, because we don't want anybody to be compromised because of this virus.
Yes, you're completely right. And I'm being told that it does take about a year or so for a vaccine to come about, for a cure. So I just know when money's involved, things get pushed forward and they make things happen. Let's keep it there. Let's keep it there. I know right now, me and you, I know right now, me and you, Brian, we're talking about the safety and the concerns for everyone that's involved in the NBA, and everybody that's all across the country. But that's what we're talking about. These owners and Adam Silver, the commissioner, they're in the business of making money. Let's call it what it is.
Yep.
So, it's about that. So we'll see what happens.
We'll definitely see what happens. Let's end this with a little fun. We don't want to. We wanted to get this and discuss this with the fans, but let's end this on a fun note. Okay, let's bring some smiles to the people that are tuning in before I let you go. I'm going to throw a little trivia out there for you. Okay, and I know you're a big-time Packer fan. Yeah. My question to you is this. Who is the last Packer receiver with at least 100 catches in a season?
Last Packer receiver with at least 100 catches in a season. I'm going to say, Robert Brooks.
You sure about that?
Maybe not Robert Brooks. Okay, I got.
Let's see.
Okay, I got one better for you. Sterling Sharp.
So is that your final answer, Sterling Sharp?
That's my final answer. Yeah.
You would be wrong.
Wrong. Okay. Who is it?
Well, how about Donald Driver?
Donald Driver. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. You said over 100 catches in a season?
In a season.
Actually, we both wrong. It's looking like Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams.
111.
Devontae Adams.
Yeah,
See,
Devontae Adams.
That's what I get. Okay.
He had 111 in 2018.
100. He sure did. I'm reading it right here. 111. Devontae Adams was the correct answer. Now let's throw a little baseball trivia. Okay. Who is the only team in Major League Baseball history to roll 2 triple plays in the same game?
Only team to roll 2 triple plays in the game. Can you give me a hint? Is it NA? Is it in the
American League
NL
team?
Or AL?
American League team.
American League team. Let me. I'm gonna roll with the Texas Rangers.
Minnesota Twins.
Minnesota Twins.
The year was 1990 when this feat happened. And a lot of people, and I go to work early in the morning before I come here and do this.
Yeah.
And I posed this trivia question to a lot of people. And no one got it right. They were guessing everybody else. Someone even guessed the Reds.
Wow, really, the Reds?
Someone even guessed the Reds. Someone even guessed the Cubs.
Wow.
1 there, 2 there.
Wow.
The clip I'm going to play features both of those triple plays.
Third base. 1 there, 2 there, and a triple play. Holy mackerel. The Twins have just rolled off a triple play on a perfect ball for Gaetti to do. They go, and Gaetti has one. They got two, and they've got another triple play. Mercy me, Gerald.
Two in the same game. Two triple plays in the same game.
Never seen it. I would have never thought it was the Twins. That's an interesting fun fact.
July 17th, 1990. You want to know the kicker about that particular game? The Twins lost that game 1-0.
Wow. Wow. They lost the game.
The Twins lost that game 1-0.
Wow.
And
wow.
and here's another piece of another fun fact. The same defensive players for the Twins assisted on both of them. Gary Gaetti, Al Newman, Kent Herbeck. 5-4-3 triple play both times.
Wow.
No one really got that.
Sure didn't.
Oh, man. He's Trey Larkins, one half of the Wise Guys, and he's riding shotgun with me for hour one. And I think we're going to make this permanent every Thursday. So, folks, this is part of the podcast that you will hear. The first hour of Snowman in the Morning, the podcast edition, every Thursday will be this wise guy teaming up with that wise guy in Cincinnati, bringing you all the sports and all the fun that you can have. My brother, I love you. Thanks for coming on. An absolute blast.
Yes, sir. Love you too, Brian. Remember, everyone, go and follow Wise Guys on Facebook. Go and follow my Twitter, WiseGuys_OH. And follow us on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. Be sure to check out the Wise Guys show each and every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. But we'll be on tonight at 8 p.m. talking some sports around the world, talking about so many different things. Brian, it's always a pleasure, bro.
I appreciate it. I love you, brother.
All right, have a good one.
Hour two in a flash.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
Don't forget, folks, to follow along at SNW Digital Media for all of our great programming. Now, let me bring in Sharif Ahmed so we can talk some NBA for this next segment. How are you, my friend?
Good. How are you, Brian?
Been busy, to say the least.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's hop right in, shall we? So,
yes,
Joakim Noah is going to sign with the Clippers. Dion Waiters is going to sign with the Lakers. Anything wrong with that picture?
No. Well, the thing is it's really hard for me to believe that these signings are coming in now to shore up their playoff rosters.
Yep.
Dion Waiters is just another old guy coming off the bench. The Lakers didn't get any younger.
Nope. They didn't get any smarter either.
No. And everyone is thinking that the Lakers are going to win the whole thing, and it's not going to happen. And the team is getting older, and Brian, it's mind-boggling. I don't know how to rationalize with fans anymore because, now that Joakim Noah is with the Clippers, Joakim Noah really, I'm speechless about it. The guy's injury prone. He can't shoot.
Yep.
What is he going to give you? Between 9 and 11 minutes a night, if that? I mean,
my question is this: why did neither of these teams that have a point guard deficiency try to offer a package for Derrick Rose?
I don't understand that either. And the thing that really is mind-boggling to me is that there were some decent point guards that were out there.
Yeah.
And the Lakers were actually courting Darren Collison, who retired.
And Darren Collison said, no, thank you. He saw that mess. He saw that mess.
And
he
sure did.
Run by Rob Pelinka. He saw that craziness that was run by Rob Pelinka, and he said, you know what, I think I'm better retired. And I can't say I blame him.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Darren Collison an L.A. boy too? Isn't he from the L.A. area?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
And it's just, and that's what I didn't understand. And he retired, and I thought when his contract ended with Indiana, I was like, man, you can get a playoff team, and he can come off the bench, give you about 19 to 22 minutes a night, and he just had no interest in playing. And for him to be sitting next to Jeannie Buss and basically said thanks but no thanks, what does that tell everybody? I don't get it.
It tells you that the Lakers are now, and I hate to say this because once upon a time I loved the Lakers, the Showtime Lakers, you're old school like I am.
Yeah.
The Showtime Lakers were run correctly. This form of the Showtime Lakers, if you want to call them that, is being run into they're being run into the dirt.
And the common denominator is LeBron.
Yes.
We talked about. I think we had talked about this. We talked about this the last time we had spoke.
Right.
The team that they had drafted was a young core.
Yep.
And Mitch Kupchak and Jeannie Buss's brother. His first name is killing me right now. But they drafted the team,
Jim
and
Buss.
they accumulated that young core.
Yeah, they drafted that core, but they didn't ride with him when they saw an opportunity to get LeBron.
Yes.
Okay? Which brings me to this point. And you already said it. The common denominator is LeBron and his destructive nature. People don't want to see the truth when it comes to LeBron, but I offered the case of one Kyrie Irving. And here's why I'm going here with Kyrie. I talked about this some time back, and you heard it. You caught on to it. A couple of my buddies caught on, but no one wants to see the truth, which is this. LeBron James ruined Kyrie Irving. Since Kyrie Irving has left Cleveland and left LeBron's tutelage, if you want to call it that, he has not been the same person. And if you want to take a peek into the future, I'm willing to bet you the Lakers are going to overload an offer to get Kyrie out of Brooklyn and to Los Angeles. I see it coming.
But the thing is that by you saying that, what assets do the Lakers have? That is the big question.
Mm-hmm.
All the assets were liquidated for basically a rental in Anthony Davis.
It's a 1-year rental. Anthony Davis is a 1-year rental because I said this the last time I had you on the program. Anthony Davis is going to go home, and home is Chicago.
It's Chicago.
And the Bulls.
And Chicago has a young nucleus, too.
Not only do they have a young nucleus, and they also have something the Lakers don't have, cap space. Lots of cap space. There are 2 destinations for Anthony Davis, but we know where he's going. One is Chicago. The other is San Francisco with the Golden State Warriors, but the Warriors already have a power play in mind, and I'll get to that here in just a moment. Sharif Ahmed of Sharif Ahmed Sports Talk joining me. The Lakers are a poorly run organization. It's being manifested right now with them signing basically LeBron's boys. Deion Waiters is one. J.R. Smith is going to be another. Why didn't they make the correct move and go after Kevin Love, who is a UCLA graduate? He's from Los Angeles. He's been wanting to go home for years. Why didn't they go after him?
Well, the thing is that Kevin Love was a 22-11 guy when he was in Minnesota.
Right.
Those numbers completely diminished when he played with LeBron.
True.
And he was upper teens, 18, 19-ish a game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was primarily a stretch four.
Mm-hmm.
And it just would not fit for him to go back.
Right.
Yeah, he's from California. The Clippers could have made a move for him, but the red flag on Kevin Love is that he does get injured. When he gets injured,
injury prone.
He sits for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just these people. It's just I'm having these back and forths with these LeBron people, and they just don't see it because it's just.
I love it. I love it because and I love it because people don't want to see the truth. People don't want to see the truth when it comes to the Lakers and LeBron. They don't want to see the truth.
No, and if the Lakers don't win this year, and they're not going to,
they're going to dismantle the
team. If the
team.
Lakers don't win this year, yeah, and the only thing they are going to have is LeBron. They have the only young talent that they have. The only young chip they have that value is Kuzma.
Is Kyle Kuzma.
And he's injury prone.
Yep. And they dealt their biggest piece. Their biggest piece, if you think about it last year, was Ivica Zubac. And they basically gave him away. They gave away Ivica Zubac. Why?
And the guy that they got in return is no longer on the team.
Exactly.
I don't even think of he's not even in the league right now.
He's
and the
not.
thing is this, man. LeBron just doesn't like dealing with young talent.
Nope.
In order to be a true leader, you need to have young talent and rally that young talent with a mixture of your veteran group. Great players have done it.
Yeah, Michael Jordan did it.
He refuses to do it.
Michael Jordan did it. He had Scottie Pippen, had to teach Scottie Pippen the ropes, had to teach Craig Hodges, John Paxson. And Pax was basically Tony Kukoc.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tony Kukoc.
Yeah, Tony Kukoc.
And Horace Grant.
And they treated
Horace Grant.
Yes, and they treated Tony. They beat the hell out of Tony Kukoc in the gold medal game in '92.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Yeah.
They beat him up. But when he came to the Bulls, he fit right in.
He did.
And basically, he's like, this is your role. This is what you're going to do. And he went ahead and did it. And he did what he was supposed to do. But instead, today's game is not like that anymore.
Nope. And a fellow that returned Thursday night, Stephen Curry, is an example of a leader. He rallies the young talent. Even though they lost on Thursday night to Toronto. A, Toronto's the defending champions. B, they have a deep roster. But when you see Stephen Curry on the court, all you can do is imagine what's going to happen next year. Because I've said this to you, and I've said this to a couple of others, and you are the only person that believes my next statement, which goes like this. The Warriors are going to be back on top in the West, if not in the NBA, next year, because they have a power play in place. They have a plan in place, something the Clippers don't have, something the Lakers don't have. All they're doing right now is keeping that hot spot, the top spot warm for when Golden State returns. And if you think they're going to deal Draymond Green for a couple of the big men that are in play, you are stupid to think that. The Warriors have a plan in place. They have some draft capital. They have some cap space. They're going to keep a little bit of their draft capital because they have to rebuild the bench again. Okay?
Yes.
But when you see Steph on the court Thursday night, hitting 30-footers like they were nothing, you just got to sit back and go, uh-oh, next season's going to be wild in the Chase Center.
Here's the question I have for you, because you're more involved with the Warriors because you follow them a lot more than I do.
Yes.
Wouldn't it have been safer to sit him the rest of the year?
Yes.
Accumulate the higher percentage of draft lottery, because they're going to be in the lottery.
They are. They're
going to get a minimum.
But with a talent like that,
top 5 pick.
But at the same time, with a talent like that, if he's itching to come back, you let him come back. A broken hand is a lot different than the injury Clay suffered in the World Championship Series. So you allow him to get his itches out. And I don't think he's going to play the rest of the year. I think it's going to be a few games for him to get that itch out, and then he's going to work with Clay, work with Draymond, and they're going to get their chemistry back together. Okay? So you got to look at it like this. It was a nationally televised game. If you want to call TNT, and I've been wanting to say this for years, if you want to call TNT a nationally televised game, I feel the same way about another 4-letter network. That's a conversation for another show. It's a nationally televised game. Okay? So you let Steph show off a little bit, give a little glimpse into what's going to happen next year. That's it.
Well, yeah, and he played 27 minutes, and he played 27 minutes last night, and that's, to me, that is a lot of minutes coming off an injury of that. And he was gone for, I think, 55 or 56 games or something
games.
like that.
58 games.
58 games. So you would think that there would be some type of numbers restriction, putting him in certain, put him in with the second group or put him in the latter half of the first half and try to get him in the mix in between.
Well, they didn't start him. They didn't start him. Okay, and that's a smart thing.
Right.
They did not start him. You don't want to bring Steph or Clay or both back immediately. They followed the pattern they followed when he was injured against the Portland Trail Blazers 3 years ago. They didn't start him. He played significant minutes Thursday night, yes, and he was dynamite. All right, yes, he was 6 for 16, but some of the shots that he hit, it's going to take that kind of conditioning. Yes, I would love to have had the Warriors sit him for the remainder of the season, but at the same time, the itch is going to be even wilder than normal for him to come back. If he's ready, he's ready. This is kind of like what Michael Jordan went through in 1986 when he lost 60. Yeah, with his broken foot, when he lost 64 games in the 85-86 season. Michael was ready to come back. The Bulls were prepared to sit him for the remainder of the season, but Michael wasn't having it. I don't think Steph would have had it either. Clay does not have a choice because you want that quad injury. You want that ACL. I beg your pardon. You want that ACL to be completely healed. You want it to be completely healed. So you do not take chances with Klay Thompson, who is Steph Curry's backcourt partner for life. Okay, they're going to retire Warriors. Steph's going to get one more extension. I think Klay's going to play one more extension on top of the one that he just signed after they lost in the World Championship Series. And they're going to hang it up. And what better place to hang it up than in San Francisco? Draymond Green's going to follow the same pattern. But we'll close with this point. I have two big men, now three, in play for Golden State to go after, and they have the capital to do it. Karl Anthony Towns, Kevin Love, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. All three of those big men are in play for Golden State, and they will land one of them.
Let me tell you this, man. You can go on YouTube and look at this video. And this was at the beginning of the season. After the Warriors were at Milwaukee.
Yep.
And it was the end of the game. Mm-hmm. There was a good game. And you can read, if you read the lips of Steph Curry, he said, and I quote, "Let's do this."
Yeah. And the explanation that came out was it was for a video game. I'm starting to think otherwise. I'm starting to think otherwise.
But the one thing I do want to say is that if Milwaukee wins the title, which they have a very good chance of winning it, if they win the title, he's not going to leave Milwaukee.
Exactly.
He's not.
But if
he's not going to leave.
But
if they lose.
But if they don't come out of the East, and unfortunately, Bucks fans, I hate to say this about the league leading Bucks, if they don't come out of the East, and I don't think they will, Giannis is out of there, and he's going right to San Francisco. I'll tease this, and I'll have to have you on later in the week. I'll tease this. I'll give you two reasons why I believe Milwaukee will not win the East. One is the Boston Celtics. The other is the defending world champion Toronto Raptors. Milwaukee can get on a good roll during the regular season. But when the chips are on the line, and I'll put it in the form of a question, how will they react when all you have to do with Giannis, and Giannis needs a better defensive system around him? Chris Middleton ain't it, okay? I hate to say it. Chris Middleton ain't it. But if you're going to send a posse after Giannis, who's going to take the mantle for Milwaukee? That's the question they have to answer, and they got a month and a half to do it.
That's something, again, like you said, that is another debate. I just, it's hard for me to fathom it because they're on such a roll right now.
Oh yeah,
and some of the players underneath them, some of the bench players, because we talked before. I do fantasy basketball.
Yes,
they're like the numbers. Like I think Doug, I can't remember his name, DiVincenzo. He's number 0.
DiVincenzo out of Villanova.
There
Doug
you
DiVincenzo.
go. Yes. I'm using him as an example.
Okay.
He was playing lower 11, 12s. Now his time has been bumped up to 19 to 20 a game.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been spot games, on back-to-backs and so on and so forth where he would come in and score 18, 20 points, 4 for 6 from three-point land,
right,
and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And I understand what you're saying. And they do have a group of veteran players that I know that will step up in that crunch time.
Okay. I want to see it.
But again,
I'd love to see Milwaukee come out of the East. I would. But I'm looking at recent trends. And recent trends tell me if you send a posse after Giannis, he's going to have some problems. Now, if his jump shot is on, then they're the most unstoppable team in the NBA. Okay? And remember last year they won 62 games. They had the best record in the NBA, and had they gotten out of the East, they would have had the home court advantage in the World Championship Series, just like Toronto did. I want to see Milwaukee have some. I want to see DiVincenzo, Middleton, and others step all the way up when the time comes. That can only be answered in April and beyond.
And another thing I wanted to tell you too, I'm trying to remember the last televised game that the Bucks had. I think was it against Toronto?
It was.
I forgot which game.
Actually, it was against Utah. They were last televised against Utah.
Yeah, and you know who was in the building? Kareem was in the building.
Captain Skyhook himself. Captain Skyhook himself.
And that would be another thing. That would be something good to see if Milwaukee can get in the finals because Kareem, the captain, will be in the house. And
absolutely,
it'd be good for him to go to Milwaukee and root for the Bucks. Instead of the Lakers,
That's where his career started.
That would be great.
That's where his career started. Sharif Ahmed joining me for some NBA talk. You can hear this conversation many times over on snowmandigitalmedia.com as well as the Full Press NBA podcast. Great to have you, brother. We will do this again.
Yes, sir. Take care.
Stick around. I got more stuff for you in a flash.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
I told you guys this would be a basketball-eccentric week on the program, and my NBA insider said, you know what, Snowman? We haven't talked in a while. We will today. Chris Purtle, part of the Sports Junkies, or one of the hosts of the Sports Junkies, joins me right now. How are you, my friend?
Hey, Brian, I'm doing good. Good to be with you today.
You know what? You got me turned on to Luka Doncic. And you told me on this program several times over that Luka Doncic is must-see TV. Well, not only is he, but so are the Dallas Mavericks. Why is he out of the MVP conversation by most circles?
That's a pretty good question. I mean, the only thing that I could think why people would put him out of the MVP conversation is the 2 minor injuries that he's had, which has sidelined him for maybe 9 or 10 games total for the entire season, maybe 11 or 12. I would have to check and get an exact number, but my point is it really hasn't been that many games, and it shouldn't disqualify him from the MVP conversation. I think another thing that people hold against him is his age. And again, that's something that also should not disqualify you from the MVP conversation, especially when you're putting up the numbers that Luka is.
We're seeing a repeat of 2011 when it comes to the MVP conversation because that year, Derrick Rose, who became the youngest MVP in NBA history, won the MVP. A lot of people held his age against him. They held the season that the Bulls were having because, remember, the Bulls won 62 games that year. They were the overall number one seed in the NBA playoffs, and that was held against him. We're seeing the same thing. We're seeing the same thing with Doncic, aren't we?
Yeah, neither one of those make any sense. I mean, if you're the MVP, and Rose was a great example of that, he led his team to the best record in the league that year. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen for Luka this season, but at the end of the day, the voters made the right decision back in 2011 when they made Derrick Rose the youngest MVP in the history of the NBA at 22 years old. Luka just turned 21 a couple of Fridays ago, so he should be in the race, Brian. Why he's not is a good question, and he does have about 18 or 19 games to try to get back in there. Giannis being injured, and who knows how long and how bad that injury really is. This is a golden opportunity for Luka Doncic to jump right back in the MVP race.
And it's a golden opportunity for him to not only jump back in the MVP race, but to show the world what the Dallas Mavericks are capable of. The Mavericks are right in the heat of the Western Conference race. We'll get to the conference races in just a moment. But it's so weird that you said Luka is must-see and he's going to challenge for the MVP. He is doing that. But the MVP conversation just features Giannis and LeBron. And I think that's wrong. It should feature Giannis. Now, I will say LeBron's doing a few great things at age 35 in year 17. But for me, my competitors for MVP would be Giannis, Luka Doncic, and Anthony Davis.
Yeah, and you never know what next week is going to bring us, Brian. You know, in the NBA, things change quickly. There's a lot of games. It's a 82-game season, and things can change quickly. It was just about a week to 10 days ago where a lot of people were throwing Jason Tatum into the MVP race, and with good reason. He led the scoring in the month of February. I think he scored over 30 points a game in the month of February. Unfortunately for Tatum, his team has not played well. They have struggled here recently. The Celtics have dropped around 4 out of the last 5 games. So I think that's the reason that we're not seeing Tatum back into the race. But like I said, all these guys now have a stretch run of about 18 to 19 games. And in my opinion, it's anybody's race. Can a dark horse like a Tatum or Doncic come in there and steal the award from LeBron or Giannis? Well, yeah, definitely, because injuries could happen. There's still a lot of basketball to be played. Think about it, 18 games in an 82-game season. That's close to 18 or 19% of the season still left, with a great time to make a good impression on the voters. So in my mind, especially now with Giannis's injury, Brian, this award is far from decided.
It is far from decided. You know, I said a couple of weeks ago that Giannis would be the runaway winner, but now with Giannis on the shelf for a few games, it's a perfect time, as you said, for Luka to get back into the MVP race. And speaking of race, let's take a look at the conference standings as we come down the stretch here. Folks, you folks who follow the NBA and look on the NBA app, as I often do during my program for reference notes, you see there are 2 teams that have already clinched a playoff spot. That's Milwaukee and Toronto. Why does that sound so familiar? Because those 2 were 1-2 last year, and 2 beat 1 in the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, you said 2 teams to me, Chris, Indiana and Miami, that could make a lot of noise in the East. Who was the team I pointed out to you? The defending world champions. Here they are, sitting in second place again, flying under the radar yet again. And they're the defending champs.
Yeah, and we could take it a step further, Brian. Since January 10th, the Toronto Raptors are 21-4. And since January 10th, the Toronto Raptors have the best record in the entire league. So, and they still continue to fly under the radar, Brian. I'm not going to make the mistake anymore. I watched them on this last road trip go into Golden State, which is not an easy place to play these days. Ask Philadelphia, ask the Denver Nuggets. I watched them destroy they didn't destroy the Warriors. They won that game by 8 points. The Warriors actually kept it close, but the bottom line is the Raptors found a way to get the job done. A couple nights later, they go to Sacramento, find a way to get the job done, and then they go to Utah the very next night on back-to-back road games on a long West Coast trip and blow the Jazz out of their building. So it is definitely time to take the Raptors seriously. If you haven't done it already, you might want to start with about 18 games left to go.
And here's a team in the East that a lot of people early on this season, and I've heard them on your show, just wrote in as the Eastern Conference champions, and yet they have fallen to the 6th spot. You know the team I'm looking at. It's the Philadelphia 76ers. And with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid dealing with injuries, missing time, this Philadelphia team is in need of a leader, and they don't have one.
No, and that 6th spot is probably not a good spot to be in. It means you're probably going to draw the Boston Celtics. And it hasn't worked out too well for Philadelphia when they've seen Boston in the playoffs. Just been a rough season in general for Philadelphia. It's gotten worse, obviously, over the past 2 or 3 weeks with the injuries to Simmons and Embiid. I don't think we really took the Sixers that seriously anyway, Brian. And then when you throw injury issues on top of that, then we definitely don't take them seriously.
7 and 8 are Brooklyn and Orlando as we continue to look at the Eastern Conference playoffs. Let's look at Brooklyn. All the reports coming out, and I spoke about this on your program, about Kyrie Irving being a cancer in Brooklyn. He's been a cancer since he's left Cleveland. And now these reports come out, Kenny Atkinson gets fired. I said on this program that was a mistake. Give me your thoughts on that.
Well, it's weird timing. I mean, Atkinson gets let go the night after they destroyed the San Antonio Spurs.
Right.
So the timing is really strange. Jacques Vaughn's first game, they beat the Bulls, but they had to win that one in a close matchup. But they got the job done and won the game. But it's strange timing. It makes no sense. This was a team that was playing pretty good basketball, considering you don't have Durant, you don't have Kyrie Irving, you only had him for about 20 games this season. You're still in the 7th place. You're still giving your fans reason to be excited. You're still giving yourself hope of the playoffs, and chances are they're just going to make the playoffs regardless of this coaching decision. But it's bizarre. It's weird. But these are the things that follow Kyrie Irving teams. We saw what happened last year in Boston. It was a team that made it to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals the previous year. And last year, they couldn't even get out of the first round. They could only win one game in the second round. Excuse me, I should say they couldn't even get out of the second round. Last year, they swept Indiana in the first round and then got beat 4-1 by the Bucks. So the Kyrie Irving teams, I don't know why you would want this headache if you're the Brooklyn Nets. And, he's their problem now. And as somebody who likes the Celtics and have always admired that organization, all I can say, Brooklyn, you signed him. It's your problem.
4 and 5 in the West is looking like a juicy matchup. And I give you credit, Pirtle. You said watch Oklahoma City. Look at them sitting in the 5 spot right now. One game out of having a home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs. Chris Paul is the reason.
Well, he's one of the good reasons, and I think it obviously helps to have the coach, Billy Donovan, to coach that team. What a job he has done in Oklahoma City. And if he gets the coach of the year instead of Nick Nurse, I wouldn't really have a problem with that, Brian. Think about this. The Oklahoma City Thunder have a great chance of, number one, finishing with a better regular season record than they had last year when they had both Paul George and Russell Westbrook. They've recently passed the Houston Rockets, who do have Russell Westbrook, in the standings. And if Donovan can find a way to get this team into the second round for the first time since Kevin Durant was there in 2016, you may have to give him the Coach of the Year award. But the best is yet to come, Brian. As you know, with that George trade to LA Clippers this offseason, the Oklahoma City have acquired a boatload of first-round picks. Well, where did Billy Donovan coach before he got to Oklahoma City? Yeah, he coached at the University of Florida, and he was the last and the only coach so far in this century, in the 2000s, to win back-to-back championships on the collegiate level. He's awesome at coaching the younger guys. He's got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander already, who'll go into his third year next year, and then they'll bring in a truckload of young talent in the NBA draft. Look out for this team as they continue to mold that talent and develop those guys over the next 3 or 4 years. Definitely a good time to buy stock in the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Let's look at 1-8 the way it stands right now, and this is where we'll close this segment. Lakers, Grizzlies. Don't think for a moment that this is going to be a walk in the park for LeBron James and company. Memphis, over the last 3 years, just in the regular season, have given the Lakers a ton of problems. Now you add Ja Morant to the equation, the Lakers may have even bigger problems in the first round should these two teams meet.
Well, the Memphis Grizzlies, got to give them credit also. They're one of the surprise teams of the season, along with Oklahoma City and the Toronto Raptors. So you got to give the coaching staff and player development in Memphis a boatload of credit. Hard to really know a lot of the guys on that team outside of Ja Morant, but they have had good contributions from guys like Jonas Valanciunas, who they acquired last year in the Marc Gasol trade. Actually, he's playing much better basketball than Marc Gasol these days. And then, of course, Josh Jackson has found a home in Memphis. He was the third or fourth player taken by the Phoenix Suns in 2017 with huge upside coming out of Kansas. It never materialized in Phoenix. Like I said, he's found a home in Memphis. But I tell you what, Brian, I'd feel much better about a better first-round matchup if the Pelicans could find a way to get that number 8 seed. I love the talent on that team. When you look at the way Lonzo Ball's playing, Drew Holiday, Zion Williamson, and we can go on with that team, truckload of talent, and I would love to find a way, or I would love to see the Pelicans find a way to get that number 8 seed.
It's going to be interesting coming down the stretch, and we'll get you ready for the NBA playoffs. We'll take you through the NBA playoffs. That's Chris Pirtle, one half of the Sports Junkies. He joins me every week to talk all things NBA. Who's your MVP? Tweet the show, SNW Digital Media, and make your choice. Always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for hopping on.
You got it, Brian. Have a great one.
I got more stuff for you, folks, after this.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
We are on the brink of the stretch run and stretch drive for the NBA season. Now, this time last year, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was this date last year, the Lakers played the Rockets at home and they beat the Rockets, and LeBron said that he was activating playoff mode. Well, 28 days later, they deactivated Mr. James when the Lakers failed to qualify for the playoffs. This year's a different story, because his team, Los Angeles Lakers, they are the number 1 seed and they look pretty good. They look poised to be the number 1 seed in the West. And things are looking up, as it was evidenced this week. But of course we know that we have to always talk about this guy, because when there's another day, there's another LeBron James conversation being brought up. So right now, let's get to it. Bronsexuals, this is your time to shine. Leg up.
In a world where partial greatness is celebrated and total greatness is shunned, there stands to be a figure on the lips of those who love him and those who hate him. The inane comparisons to Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant continue and has existed since 2003. There is no end in sight, for the battle between those who unconditionally love and unconditionally hate him wages on. These are their stories. Welcome to the Bronsexual Confessions.
So Sunday, just so you know, Bronsexuals, I give you the positive too. So they played a game against the Celtics. And of course, this is the rivalry of all of the NBA. Even though it's okay, it's not really all that stellar now. Not like it was in the 80s or even the turn of last decade, but I digress. So LeBron dribbled to the right. He was guarded 1-on-1. He made a fadeaway move, hit the shot with about 30 seconds left to play. And that decided things as the Lakers split the season series with the Celtics with the win Sunday, 114-112. Now, LeBron had 29 points in that game, 9 assists and 8 rebounds. But with the good comes the, why do we have to talk about this? So Monday, as you all know, there was a ceremony. Not necessarily funeral, but really a public memorial service held for Gianna and Kobe Bryant at Staples Center. Conspicuous in possibly his absence was LeBron James, and people were asking the question, did LeBron James attend the Kobe Bryant public service? Who cares? And it just upset me to hear that, because it was like, okay, someone's trying to squeeze the turnip hard to come up with some news. Why? It was not news at all. And when I think of it, it's infuriating. However, that is not what I want to really talk about in this Bronsexual Confessions time period. So I had a conversation with a Bronsexual, and this Bronsexual was loud and proud. I mean, just very proud. But unlike most Bronsexuals, this guy was more respectful. And so he asked this question. He said, quote, "For those who are not convinced that LeBron is the GOAT," GOAT meaning greatest of all time, "is there anything he can do to change your mind? Like win 1 more championship, win 4 more championships, break Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's record?" Close quote. Now, I figured that's a simple question. That's a simple ask. I have to admit that. But with that simple question, I had a simpler answer, which is, quote, "There isn't anything LeBron can do to change my mind as to him being the GOAT. The ship forever sailed on June 11th, 2011. Close quote. Now, I got pushback on that. Someone said to me, so you mean the time when LeBron, for the first time in his career, played with a real star and they had chemistry issues? And I laugh at that. Because if you're a team that's supposed to win, as he said in June of 2010 when he signed on the dotted line and he showed up in Miami with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade in their Heat uniforms, and he has a mic in his hand and he says, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7 championships. He came to win chips. He didn't come to just simply go through the motions and say, well, I think we don't have the chemistry down. Maybe we can make this year a mulligan. No. His thought process is when he signed to be on the Heat, June 2010, well, by this time next year, we're going to be hoisting up the Larry O'Brien trophy. So when I heard the chemistry talk, I said, okay, chemistry issues, that's in November and December, not June. Because June, that would have been an issue already handled. No. And meanwhile, the reason why I said June 11th, 2011 and not June 13th, 2007 was because in June 13, 2007, that was the date of Game 4 of the 2007 NBA Finals between the Spurs and the Cavaliers. And the Spurs swept the Cavaliers. No, LeBron was punching up. He was punching me on his weight class, as they say. Because remember, that was the same year where in the Eastern Conference Finals, it basically was him and a whole bunch of other people. And remember, he had Antoine Jameson and Daniel Gibson, or Booby, along with Erison Varejao as teammates. And that was the series where he scored 25 straight points and 29 out of the last 30. In a win against probably one of the most stout defensive teams that we have seen in quite some time in the Detroit Pistons. So they get past them in 6, and that was all they had. They shot as much as they could. They shot their best shot because when they got to the Spurs in 2007's NBA Finals, they met up with a team that just was too strong, too big, too fast, too skilled, and too loaded up with championship pedigree. That was just the case. So I give the 2007 season a pass. I don't really consider that anything that would hurt his GOAT status. Never did. 2011 happened. So we get to the time where he's a Heat and he ran into some adversity, not much, but some adversity in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Bulls, where the Heat got whooped in game 1 and then they stormed in games 2, 3, 4, and 5 and just gentlemen swept them completely out the playoffs. So it made you think, okay, well, I guess here it is. The coronation is about to happen. And then the first 2 games, they split it between themselves and the Mavs. And then we get to game 3. And we start to see something that was troubling. And then we saw it again in game 4. And then we saw it again in game 5. And then we saw it again in game 6. And what was the something troubling that I'm talking about? The fourth quarter in games 3, 4, 5, and 6. The money quarter. The quarter where you earn your stripes. The quarter that separates the men from the boys. The quarter that separates the elite from the, okay, you all right, superstar. And that has been said by many analysts, journalists, players, and executives. And LeBron at this time, 26 years of age, this was his 8th year in the league, so this was no excuse at all to come up and play smaller than mini-me. Yet he did. Because in each of those fourth quarters, that man scored a total of 8 points. I'll say it again. Game 3's fourth quarter, 2 points. Game 4's fourth quarter, 2 points. Game 5's fourth quarter, 2 points. Game 6's fourth quarter, 2 points. Now, you can say in game 5, I think he had a triple-double. That doesn't matter. Because when he was supposed to come up big, he came up small. So the Heat lost that series 4-2 to the Mavs. And look, in that series, Dirk Nowitzki outclassed everybody in it. So I'm not even comparing LeBron to Dirk in that series, because Dirk played out of his mind in that playoff stretch. No, LeBron played so bad. He averaged 17.8 points in that series. LeBron in that series played so bad that the sixth man for the Mavericks, Jason Terry, outplayed him. He averaged 18 points. Shot better from the field, had a better shooting percentage, played less minutes, and he outplayed LeBron. So if you ask me why I don't ever consider, why I will never consider, and why I will not change considering LeBron James to be the greatest of all time, look at games 3, 4, 5, and 6 of the 2011 NBA Finals. And there is where LeBron James's candidacy to be the greatest player of all time in the NBA died. And it is forever buried. You can whimper, you can cry, you can say foul, you can say I'm being harsh, you can say I'm being unfair, you can even call me an F. Bron Bronner. I don't care what you say. Those stats in those 4 games, especially those key 48 minutes that I just laid out for you, is the reason why I will never consider LeBron James to be the greatest basketball player who's ever played in the National Basketball Association. Because there was one moment, or I should say 4 in this case, where he came up so small. The greatest player in the world was outplayed by a 6th man. That should never happen. So, I'll say a phrase that Killmonger said in Black Panther, and this is directly aimed right at you, bronsexual. Is this your king? Is this your king?
In a world where contradiction and hypocrisy exist, lies the truth to set us all free. Here is where we all get enlightened. This has been yet another installment of The Bronsexual Confessions.
Wonderful, wonderful job, my friend. Wonderful job. And I'm going to add a little something to that that's going to really get on some people's nerves, and frankly, I don't care. And I got a LeBron take of my own that will follow this one. You heard Cole Johnson say that LeBron got outperformed by a 6th man, which permanently, in my eyes, also eliminates LeBron from being the greatest of all time. Well, that's not the first time that's happened. It also happened a second time. Now, granted, the second time that it happened, said 6th man started the last 3 games of the World Championship Series. But said 6th man also wound up being most valuable player. You know who that 6th man was? That 6th man was Andre Iguodala, who was named Finals MVP in the 2015 World Championship Series. You're supposed to be the best of the best of the best, LeBron James. And you got outperformed by Jason Terry, who was the 6th man in 2011. And 4 years later, you got outperformed and shut down to an extent by Andre Iguodala in 2015. And oh, by the way, both of those series were for the world championship. And I'll add this, and I got another take coming. I'm going to expand on this. By the way, bronze sexuals, haven't you forgotten that LeBron has jumped ship 3 separate times to win championships? While a certain bronze sexual who says LeBron is greater than Kobe is greater than MJ, and that is a false statement. If you know your math, you know that to be a false statement. Kobe earned all 5 of his titles with the Lakers. Michael Jordan earned all 6 of his titles with the Bulls. And to Mr. Ryan Hollins, who brought up the impact that LeBron had with different teammates, yeah, Kobe has had different teammates, and so has Michael. Here's the difference. Kobe and Michael didn't have to chase the teammates. They came to them. The teammates that were impacted by Kobe and MJ didn't have to chase they didn't have to chase the teammates. The teammates came to them, and quite willingly, which is why I feel the Lakers will not get out of the second round of the playoffs this year, and Anthony Davis is going to go home. A little hint for the rumor mill. I have some backup on this. You'll hear a lot more of my snowman's take to piggyback on this after this. Back in a flash.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
Did you not get the memo? Holy on smoke!
I said this would be a basketball eccentric type show today, and it will be. It will be. But something came across that made me absolutely laugh. And it involves Dak Prescott. Now, I know a lot of you Cowboy fans are going to get so upset with me. But I'll read first. According to Calvin Watkins of the Dallas Morning News, the Cowboys are prepared to make their quarterback one of the highest paid players in NFL history. Watkins reports that the Cowboys met with Prescott's representation twice since the NFL Combine, which ended March 2nd, a week ago today. Recently, they offered Prescott a contract which includes an average salary of, now hold on to your seats, $33 million with, and keep hanging on to your seats, $105 million guaranteed. This contract would exceed Aaron Rodgers' deal in both total money and guaranteed money. Russell Wilson of the Seattle Seahawks most recently set the market with his 4-year, $140 million contract, which included $107 million guaranteed. $70 million that was guaranteed when pen hit paper. And according to Patrick Walker of CBS Sports, Prescott has been offered a contract with an average annual salary of $33 million before. That came back in August, but declined. It's possible that if Prescott does not accept this offer, the Cowboys might have to go the route of the franchise tag. Last month, Ian Rappaport reported that if the Cowboys were to tag Prescott, they would utilize the exclusive franchise tag. I'll stop there. Really? So you're going to make Dallas, listen to me. Just riddle me this. What has Prescott done? You can offer to me all the stats that you want concerning Dak Prescott. He has been healthy. Yes. He is good. Yes. But he's not worth $33 million a year. You can tell me all you want that he almost threw for 5,000 yards, that he threw all these touchdowns, very few interceptions, and yet what happened to the Cowboys this past year? Anybody remember? Anybody remember what happened to the Cowboys this past year? I'll tell you what happened. 8-8. So you're going to offer $33 million a year. Okay? $33 million a year to a quarterback that led his team to the same record as Mitch Trubisky led for the Chicago Bears, which was 8-8. 4,900 yards don't mean a damn thing if you're not getting your team to January. Just ask Jameis Winston. Okay? Just ask Matt Ryan, who finished 7-9. Just ask Cam Newton, who finished this season on injured reserve. Okay? Just ask these quarterbacks around the league who were supposedly the next best thing for their team and didn't even get to the play. Just ask the Jacksonville Jaguars, who spent a boatload of money on Nick Foles, a former Super Bowl MVP, a former Super Bowl champion. They spent all this money on Nick Foles. Nick Foles, who outdueled Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Yeah, how'd that work out for you, Jacksonville? 6-10 with Foles missing time due to injury. How about Andy Dalton? 2-14. How about Baker Mayfield, who was supposedly progressing and he has wound up regressing? 6-10 for Baker Mayfield. 6-10. You want a quarterback that struck it rich? How about Ryan Tannehill getting the hell out of Miami and going to Tennessee and leading his team to not only the playoffs, but the AFC Championship game? You want a real quarterback? How about the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes? Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL right now. It ain't Tom Brady. It ain't Jimmy Garoppolo, unfortunately, because Mahomes outdueled Jimmy Garoppolo. It's Patrick Mahomes. And yet, if you're the Dallas Cowboys, you overpaid for Ezekiel Elliott. You're going to overpay for Dak Prescott. And when the time comes when you actually need to use your capital to draft some good players onto your team, or go after free agents that would make your team better, you can't do it because everything is tied up with 2, possibly 3 players. And one of them is a quarterback that has been so mediocre despite a winning season, a division title, and a playoff appearance that hasn't shown any kind of progress. That's a turnover machine waiting to happen. And yet, you're going to spend that kind of money on him. Why? Why? Listen, Dallas, why are you going to spend that kind of capital on a quarterback that hasn't proven himself? You know where I rank Dak Prescott? In the same field as, in the same realm as Baker Mayfield. And Baker Mayfield regressed horribly. Make all the excuses you want about having this many systems in this many years. But you're a professional quarterback in the NFL. Isn't it time that you showed some adaptive capabilities and actually learned what you're supposed to learn? Because Baker Mayfield had a chance to prove himself in San Francisco and got reduced to factory of sadness status. And so did his team. It was time for Dak Prescott to take that next step forward after a 13-3 year, after leading the Cowboys to the East Division title, and he took 4 giant steps backwards. Had a chance to put his team in the playoffs. You know where Dallas's chance for the playoffs really went backwards? I'm going to tell you something. A lot of people don't think this to be true. But if you go back, I beg your pardon, if you go back to Thanksgiving Day, and how the Cowboys were reduced to the mediocrity waiting to happen in front of a live national audience on Thanksgiving Day, that is where the Cowboys' playoff chances went south and never recovered. You lose to the Philadelphia Eagles. You lose to a banged-up Philadelphia Eagles squad. You blow out Washington, but everything else was settled before you even took the field. And yet the Cowboys are going to offer $33 million to a quarterback that can't even do better than Romo when it comes to time to pony up. Now, could I be wrong about all of this? Certainly. I'll admit something. I was kind of high on Dak Prescott when he was at Mississippi State. I was kind of high on Dak Prescott when the Cowboys first selected him. But now you're starting to see the fruits of that labor. They didn't do any research on Prescott. I'm sorry, but Dak Prescott cannot get the ball. Well, he can get the ball where it needs to go. Yes, he can do that. He can absolutely do that. But the problem is with Prescott, and you saw it throughout the course of this year, he didn't get most of his numbers until the game was already decided. I'm sorry, but I don't trust the Cowboys really making Dak Prescott prove himself. You know how Dak Prescott proves himself and proves me wrong? Give me a 13-3 season. Give me an appearance in the NFC Championship game where you get squashed by the running game by the 49ers. Okay? But I digress. Give me a 13-3 year. Give me a year where you walk through the NFC East and show everybody, hey, we're the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott is our quarterback, and I don't need a crying Terrell Owens meme right now. Show me that kind of Cowboy pride. Show me the kind of Cowboy pride Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, Russell Maryland, Emmitt Smith, Darryl Johnston, Tony Casillas, Mark Tuinei, okay? Nate Newton, Mark Stepnoski, Eric Williams, Larry Allen. Show me that kind of Cowboy pride. Get that kind of offensive line to protect your quarterback. And everybody was telling me, oh, we got the best offensive line in the league. Wrong answer. Give me that kind of Dallas Cowboys, where you make me hate them, but you make me respect them. That held true for the Boston Celtics back in the day. That held true for the Detroit Pistons back in the day. Hell, that held true for the Pittsburgh Steelers back in the day. But these Cowboys, with that quarterback, not happening. I don't see it. I don't see it. There's no chance of me seeing it. And not a chance in hell that you trust Dak Prescott with that kind of responsibility for that kind of money. Period. More after this.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
Barry Bonds. Where, oh where, do I begin with this subject? You can classify this player and everyone in his era. You can just simply label him a cheater and be done with it. Barry Bonds said something that kind of had me laughing. Now that I've had more than enough time to think about the steroid era, and I know you're going to be asking me, why have you been thinking about it this long? Because I was conflicted because a couple of my former favorite players were involved. Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds. He said Major League Baseball, this is Bonds talking, has given him a death sentence. Something to the tune of, my heart is broken. Really? 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 Barry? El Home Run King? The guy who has been intentionally walked a lot? The guy who has been intentionally walked a couple times with the bases loaded to force in a run just because pitchers didn't want to pitch to you? Really? You? A death sentence, Barry Bonds? For a long time, truthfully, I didn't know how to feel about it. I really didn't. And the reason I didn't know how to feel about it is, well, simply because I liked Barry. I liked watching him play. I liked seeing him frighten the absolute bejesus out of pitchers. I liked him coming to the plate, I beg your pardon, as one of, if not the most feared hitters ever. I think I want to say that he got better when he signed with the San Francisco Giants. I'd like to think that. But like I said, I just loved seeing him hit. Matter of fact, let me take y'all back to 2002. The scene of the crime, Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. Barry Bonds versus Yankee Stadium. John Miller with the call on KNBR San Francisco. And I'm glad it was the radio call for this particular home run. I'm glad it was the radio call that I found, because this was at the height of his career, and this is where you can identify.
Bonds comes up. Let's listen in.
Just listen.
Number 25, Barry Bonds, designated hitter. Number 25.
Bonds at slightly open stance, feet fairly close together, crowding the plate. The pitch, there's a long one to right field. Forget about it. This one is headed for New Jersey, high into the upper deck. Barry Bonds with a spectacular 3-run homer. And he has electrified Yankee Stadium. 3-0 Giants. And listen to the Yankee Stadium crowd as Bonds rounds the bases.
I loved seeing that when Bonds was at the height of his career. Thank you, John Miller. Shout to the Giants Radio Network, the San Francisco Giants Radio Network. But then the Balco story broke. And remember, this is the year he went to the World Series and lost in 7 games. And he hit what? 5 home runs in that World Series? 5 or 6? Now, many years later, and well, I just have to be truthful to myself as a baseball fan, because baseball was the first sport I loved growing up, watching some of my favorite baseball players. And I know the charges, if you want to look at it technically, against Bonds are still alleged because no proof has been found. But he was indicted on an obstruction of justice. How about an obstruction of justice Bonds committed against the sport of baseball by even being involved in that situation, by even having to take something the clear as it was described, because even you having to take the clear, even being one of the most feared hitters in baseball. So you have to give yourself an advantage being the most feared hitter in baseball for the better part of a decade. Are you bleeping kidding me? And it's probably justice to Barry Bonds that he won no World Series titles with the Pirates nor the Dodgers. Remember, the Pirates 1990, 1991, and 1992 won 3 consecutive division titles. Lost to the Braves in 90, lost to the Reds in 90, lost to the Braves in 91, and the Braves again in 92. And remember, Barry Bonds tried to make the last putout the day Sid slid, October 14, 1992. I feel in my heart, I have no notes in front of me. I'm not looking at his statistics. I'm speaking truly from the heart. Barry Bonds, you cheated and you got caught. Houston Astros, you cheated and you got busted. Roger Clemens, Rafael Palmeiro, Mark McGwire, you all cheated and you got caught. Pete Rose, I hate to say this, same to you. You got caught betting on your team. You bet on your team and you got caught. And I know my emotions are going to change. I know that my mind is going to change over a little more time. But I say at this point in time, good. Because the percentages of the players that I mentioned getting into the Hall of Fame dwindle with every year. And I'm happy of that. And I loved Roger Clemens when he first came into the... I loved Roger Clemens for years, okay? But to find out he cheated and took steroids. Barry Bonds taking the clear, which is a steroid. Now, there is this. MLB didn't start managing this stuff until 2004. I may have that wrong. Please correct me. But for a long time, Major League Baseball didn't even talk about banned substances. And now they ban all of these folks that basically cheated taking PEDs. This is where I got conflicted as a fan. Because I've heard a lot of stories before the steroid era of players cheating and getting away with it. One of the most famous, the White Sox of 1919, although that now has been erased with the 2005 title. Thank you, White Sox, for that. But I got to be honest with you. Even up to this very moment where I said, good, they cheated, they got caught, and they got punished, which to the letter of the law, they should have been punished and subsequently were. Man, I got to tell you something. Even to present moment, not just present day, but present moment, I'm still conflicted. Because there's the part of me that's still a baseball fan and loves seeing these players do their best. But then there's the journalistic side of me that absolutely abhors hearing about how these players use PEDs and the testimony they had to give to Congress and grand juries and stuff like that, which made baseball even murkier than before, aside of the strike of 1994. So, in conclusion, all I have to say is Major League Baseball, you still have a situation on your hands with the steroid era. And like I said, the present moment, this could change. This could really change. And I expect it to because I love baseball. I do. I love watching these guys go up and play chess against each other. My wife will never love baseball. In fact, she told me when we first met that she hates baseball. And I said, baby, you haven't heard me call a game yet. And she laughed at me and she says, it doesn't matter. You're not going to get me to like baseball. Fair enough. I digress. Be that as it may, even to present moment, I'm still conflicted. Because part of me wants to say, you cheated, you got caught, good. Punish him, ban him, do whatever you have to do. And it was done. Sammy Sosa included. And still, there's a part of me that says, that wants to have a soft heart and go, let these guys in anyway. Especially Bonds and Pete Rose, Major League Baseball record holders. Bonds with 762 home runs and Pete Rose with over 4,000 hits. But you know what the argument's going to be against Pete Rose? Ichiro Suzuki. And I mean that purely from an achievement standpoint. That Ichiro, using his hits from the Japanese League, has surpassed Pete Rose. So Ichiro Suzuki is going to be the hits hero. And you know something? I don't mind. I really don't. Because I love watching Ichiro. And Ichiro did it the right way. Ichiro did it the right way. There was not a crossword between him and the Mariners or him and the Yankees. Not a crossword at all. When he got dealt to the Yankees, it broke my heart, but it was a business decision. I absolutely know that. I know that. And you can pretty much call me a baseball purist, you can pretty much call me a baseball fan, even though I've announced baseball since 2000. But I got to be straight with you. Ichiro is one of my favorite players of all time that's not a home run hitter. And I'll say it again. I know when he got dealt from Seattle to the Yankees, it was a business decision, but then he returned to Seattle and finished his career there. Man, if there was ever a hero for baseball, especially in terms of hits, it's Ichiro Suzuki. Because for the most part, well, for all of his career, Ichiro Suzuki did it the right way. So if he's crowned the hits champion, so be it. I got nothing against that whatsoever. I do have things against Bonds and Clemens and Palmeiro and McGuire and Sosa and everyone who participated in that steroid era. But as I said, and being truthful with you fans, I'm conflicted still, as a fan and as a journalist. What do you guys think? Tweet the show at SNW Digital Media. Time for a break, and when we come back, I got some more stuff for you. Back in a flash.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
I told you guys this would be a basketball-eccentric week on the program, and my NBA insider said, you know what, Snowman? We haven't talked in a while. We will today. Chris Purtle, part of the Sports Junkies, or one of the hosts of the Sports Junkies, joins me right now. How are you, my friend?
Hey, Brian, I'm doing good. Good to be with you today.
You know what? You got me turned on to Luka Doncic. And you told me on this program several times over that Luka Doncic is must-see TV. Well, not only is he, but so are the Dallas Mavericks. Why is he out of the MVP conversation by most circles?
That's a pretty good question. I mean, the only thing that I could think why people would put him out of the MVP conversation is the two minor injuries that he's had, which has sidelined him for maybe 9 or 10 games total for the entire season, maybe 11 or 12. I would have to check and get an exact number, but my point is it really hasn't been that many games, and it shouldn't disqualify him from the MVP conversation. I think another thing that people hold against him is his age. And again, that's something that also should not disqualify you from the MVP conversation, especially when you're putting up the numbers that Luka is.
We're seeing a repeat of 2011 when it comes to the MVP conversation, because that year, Derrick Rose, who became the youngest MVP in NBA history, won the MVP. A lot of people held his age against him. They held the season that the Bulls were having, because remember, the Bulls won 62 games that year. They were the overall number one seed in the NBA playoffs, and that was held against him. We're seeing the same thing. We're seeing the same thing with Doncic, aren't we?
Yeah, neither one of those make any sense. I mean, if you're the MVP, and Rose was a great example of that, he led his team to the best record in the league that year. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen for Luka this season, but at the end of the day, the voters made the right decision back in 2011 when they made Derrick Rose the youngest MVP in the history of the NBA at 22 years old. Luka just turned 21 a couple of Fridays ago, so he should be in the race, Brian. Why he's not is a good question, and he does have about 18 or 19 games to try to get back in there. Giannis being injured, and who knows how long and how bad that injury really is. This is a golden opportunity for Luka Doncic to jump right back in the MVP race.
And it's a golden opportunity for him to not only jump back in the MVP race, but to show the world what the Dallas Mavericks are capable of. The Mavericks are right in the heat of the Western Conference race. We'll get to the conference races in just a moment. But it's so weird that you said Luka is must-see and he's going to challenge for the MVP. He is doing that. But the MVP conversation just features Giannis and LeBron. And I think that's wrong. It should feature Giannis. Now, I will say LeBron's doing a few great things at age 35 in year 17. But for me, my competitors for MVP would be Giannis, Luka Doncic, and Anthony Davis.
Yeah, and you never know what next week is going to bring us, Brian. You know, in the NBA, things change quickly. There's a lot of games. It's a 82-game season, and things can change quickly. It was just about a week to 10 days ago where a lot of people were throwing Jason Tatum into the MVP race, and with good reason. He led the scoring in the month of February. I think he scored over 30 points a game in the month of February. Unfortunately for Tatum, his team has not played well. They have struggled here recently. The Celtics have dropped around 4 out of the last 5 games. So I think that's the reason that we're not seeing Tatum back into the race. But like I said, all these guys now have a stretch run of about 18 to 19 games. And in my opinion, it's anybody's race. Can a dark horse like a Tatum or Doncic come in there and steal the award from LeBron or Giannis? Well, yeah, definitely, because injuries could happen. There's still a lot of basketball to be played. Think about it, 18 games in an 82-game season. That's close to 18 or 19% of the season still left, with a great time to make a good impression on the voters. So in my mind, especially now with Giannis's injury, Brian, this award is far from decided.
It is far from decided. You know, I said a couple of weeks ago that Giannis would be the runaway winner, but now with Giannis on the shelf for a few games, it's a perfect time, as you said, for Luka to get back into the MVP race. And speaking of race, let's take a look at the conference standings as we come down the stretch here. Folks, you folks who follow the NBA and look on the NBA app, as I often do during my program for reference notes, you see there are 2 teams that have already clinched a playoff spot. That's Milwaukee and Toronto. Why does that sound so familiar? Because those 2 were 1-2 last year, and 2 beat 1 in the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, you said 2 teams to me, Chris, Indiana and Miami, that could make a lot of noise in the East. Who was the team I pointed out to you? The defending world champions. Here they are, sitting in second place again, flying under the radar yet again. And they're the defending champs.
Yeah, and we could take it a step further, Brian. Since January 10th, the Toronto Raptors are 21-4. And since January 10th, the Toronto Raptors have the best record in the entire league. So, and they still continue to fly under the radar, Brian. I'm not going to make the mistake anymore. I watched them on this last road trip going to Golden State, which is not an easy place to play these days. Ask Philadelphia, ask the Denver Nuggets. I watched them destroy they didn't destroy the Warriors. They won that game by 8 points. The Warriors actually kept it close, but the bottom line is the Raptors found a way to get the job done. A couple nights later, they go to Sacramento, find a way to get the job done, and then they go to Utah the very next night on back-to-back road games on a long West Coast trip and blow the Jazz out of their building. So it is definitely time to take the Raptors seriously. If you haven't done it already, you might want to start with about 18 games left to go.
And here's a team in the East that a lot of people early on this season, and I've heard them on your show, just wrote in as the Eastern Conference champions, and yet they have fallen to the 6th spot. You know the team I'm looking at. It's the Philadelphia 76ers. And with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid dealing with injuries, missing time, this Philadelphia team is in need of a leader, and they don't have one.
No, and that 6th spot is probably not a good spot to be in. It means you're probably going to draw the Boston Celtics. And it hasn't worked out too well for Philadelphia when they've seen Boston in the playoffs. Just been a rough season in general for Philadelphia. It's gotten worse, obviously, over the past 2 or 3 weeks with the injuries to Simmons and Embiid. I don't think we really took the Sixers that seriously anyway, Brian. And then when you throw injury issues on top of that, then we definitely don't take them seriously.
7 and 8 are Brooklyn and Orlando as we continue to look at the Eastern Conference playoffs. Let's look at Brooklyn. All the reports coming out, and I spoke about this on your program, about Kyrie Irving being a cancer in Brooklyn. He's been a cancer since he's left Cleveland. And now these reports come out. Kenny Atkinson gets fired. I said on this program that was a mistake. Give me your thoughts on that.
Well, it's weird timing. I mean, Atkinson gets let go the night after they destroyed the San Antonio Spurs.
Right.
So the timing is really strange. Jacques Vaughn's first game, they beat the Bulls, but they had to win that one in a close matchup. But they got the job done and won the game. But it's strange timing. It makes no sense. This was a team that was playing pretty good basketball, considering you don't have Durant, you don't have Kyrie Irving. You only had him for about 20 games this season. You're still in the 7th place. You're still giving your fans reason to be excited. You're still giving yourself hope of the playoffs, and chances are they're just going to make the playoffs regardless of this coaching decision. But it's bizarre. It's weird. But these are the things that follow Kyrie Irving teams. We saw what happened last year in Boston. It was a team that made it to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals the previous year. And last year, they couldn't even get out of the first round. They could only win one game in the second round. Excuse me, I should say they couldn't even get out of the second round. Last year, they swept Indiana in the first round and then got beat 4-1 by the Bucks. So the Kyrie Irving teams, I don't know why you would want this headache if you're the Brooklyn Nets. And, he's their problem now. And as somebody who likes the Celtics and have always admired that organization, all I can say, Brooklyn, you signed him. It's your problem.
4 and 5 in the West is looking like a juicy matchup. And I give you credit, Berto. You said watch Oklahoma City. Look at them sitting in the 5 spot right now. One game out of having a home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs. Chris Paul is the reason.
Well, he's one of the good reasons, and I think it obviously helps to have the coach, Billy Donovan, to coach that team. What a job he has done in Oklahoma City. And if he gets the coach of the year instead of Nick Nurse, I wouldn't really have a problem with that, Brian. Think about this. The Oklahoma City Thunder have a great chance of, number one, finishing with a better regular season record than they had last year when they had both Paul George and Russell Westbrook. They've recently passed the Houston Rockets, who do have Russell Westbrook, in the standings. And if Donovan can find a way to get this team into the second round for the first time since Kevin Durant was there in 2016, you may have to give him the Coach of the Year award. But the best is yet to come, Brian. As you know, with that George trade to LA Clippers this offseason, the Oklahoma City have acquired a boatload of first-round picks. Well, where did Billy Donovan coach before he got to Oklahoma City? Yeah, he coached at the University of Florida, and he was the last and the only coach so far in this century, in the 2000s, to win back-to-back championships on the collegiate level. He's awesome at coaching the younger guys. He's got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander already, who'll go into his third year next year, and then they'll bring in a truckload of young talent in the NBA draft. Look out for this team as they continue to mold that talent and develop those guys over the next 3 or 4 years. Definitely a good time to buy stock in the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Let's look at 1-8, the way it stands right now, and this is where we'll close this segment. Lakers, Grizzlies. Don't think for a moment that this is going to be a walk in the park for LeBron James and company. Memphis, over the last 3 years, just in the regular season, have given the Lakers a ton of problems. Now you add Ja Morant to the equation, the Lakers may have even bigger problems in the first round should these two teams meet.
Well, the Memphis Grizzlies, got to give them credit also. They're one of the surprise teams of the season, along with Oklahoma City and the Toronto Raptors. So you got to give the coaching staff and player development in Memphis a boatload of credit. Hard to really know a lot of the guys on that team outside of Ja Morant, but they have had good contributions from guys like Jonas Valanciunas, who they acquired last year in the Marc Gasol trade. Actually, he's playing much better basketball than Marc Gasol these days. And then, of course, Josh Jackson has found a home in Memphis. He was the third or fourth player taken by the Phoenix Suns in 2017 with huge upside coming out of Kansas. It never materialized in Phoenix. Like I said, he's found a home in Memphis. But I tell you what, Brian, I'd feel much better about a better first-round matchup if the Pelicans could find a way to get that number 8 seed. I love the talent on that team. When you look at the way Lonzo Ball's playing, Drew Holiday, Zion Williamson, and we can go on with that team, truckload of talent, and I would love to find a way, or I would love to see the Pelicans find a way to get that number 8 seed.
It's going to be interesting coming down the stretch, and we'll get you ready for the NBA playoffs. We'll take you through the NBA playoffs. That's Chris Pirtle, one half of the Sports Junkies. He joins me every week to talk all things NBA. Who's your MVP? Tweet the show, SNW Digital Media, and make your choice. Always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for hopping on.
You got it, Brian. Have a great one.
I got more stuff for you, folks, after this.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
Did you not get the memo? Holy on smoke!
This is probably going to be a very heavy basketball-centric week here on the program. Why, you ask? Well, the NBA season that's coming down the stretch. You got NCAA basketball going into their men's and women's basketball tournaments, and I got some great interviews lined up. My buddy Henry G., well connected into the women's basketball community and the women's sports community, so he has agreed to have us run some of his interviews so we can reach out to a bigger audience. I'm going to have some of those same guests that he invites on his program on mine. We're going to do a lot of cross-promoting. But this is why I want to touch on basketball right now. The Brooklyn experiment needs to end, and it needs to end immediately. In case you don't know, this past weekend, Kenny Atkinson was fired as the coach of the Brooklyn Nets. That was a mistake. Why, you ask? Because the real problems with the Brooklyn Nets are still on the team. The real problems with the Brooklyn Nets are still there. The real problems with the Brooklyn Nets are still in uniform. One of them hasn't played this year, and the other hasn't played much. Let me say that again, and I think you all know the two gentlemen I'm speaking of. One of the problems has not played this year, and the other hasn't played much. I told you guys at the top of the season, we will wait to see how this goes. When Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving signed with Brooklyn, I had someone ask me, when that deal was done, especially with Kyrie, going to focus on Kyrie here for just a minute. I can absolve Kevin Durant because he has been recovering from a ruptured Achilles all year. I still think he's a year away from coming back and being the Kevin Durant that we know, the best of which we saw in Golden State. But let me say this. Kyrie to Brooklyn was a mistake. Kyrie leaving Cleveland 3 years ago was a mistake. The biggest mistake that the Cleveland Cavaliers made was allowing LeBron James to come back, but that's a different discussion for a different time. For those of you who have really followed Kyrie Irving's career, you know where the problem is. And if I need to say it, then you haven't followed enough. Kyrie Irving, of course, played at Duke University for 11 games, and an injury cost him that season. So after 1 year, he decided, I'm going to jump to the NBA. Why'd you do that, Kyrie? You weren't ready. You found yourself in a groove in Cleveland when they were trying to build around you. LeBron James comes back. You get in a better groove. But then, unfortunately, you've taken a lot of his habits. One of which that notwithstanding is the injuries. You've been injury prone. He's been injury prone his entire career. And it's cost him. It's cost him a lot of games. I will point to one jump shot that he made that essentially made him and essentially broke him. That was the championship winning shot in 2016 at Golden State. He hit the game-winning three that put the Cavaliers up to stay 92-89 in Game 7 of the World Championship Series. That made him. It also broke him because he hasn't hit anything like that in the playoffs of that significance since then. And a year later, when those two teams met again, Stephen Curry cooked him for 5 games. Well, I'll say 4 out of the 5 because Cleveland just got on a roll in Game 4. Cleveland just got on a roll in Game 4. I'll give you that. But then Kyrie said, you know what? I think I can lead a team, and I want to lead a team. So he heads to Boston. 2 years there. No title. No significant proof that he can lead a team. Matter of fact, 2018, he was injured, had to sit out the playoffs, and the Celtics came within an eyelash of going to the World Championship Series against Golden State. What's that tell you? Now he moves on to Brooklyn, holds the Celtics hostage. Holds them hostage. Wondering what they were going to do, but I think the Celtics knew what was going on before Kyrie even made his move. So they sent Rozier packing. You bring in Kemba Walker, and Kemba Walker has replaced every single negative memory that Kyrie Irving placed on that ball club. Is he a wonderful talent? Yes. Can he lead a team? No. It has been proven twice, now 3 times already. Now, I know there's 3 years left on this deal for Kyrie that they made a big ballyhoo about over the summer. But you know something, Brooklyn? End the experiment, will you please? I'll tell you how you can do that in just a moment. Let me read part of this report from Bleacher Report. That says Kenny Atkinson was looking for an exit and received his wish when he and the Brooklyn Nets agreed to part ways. According to Yahoo Sports' Vincent Goodwill, Atkinson struggled to mesh with the team's 2 biggest offseason acquisitions, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. Goodwill sources say the coach, quote, wasn't fond of coaching Durant and Irving based on what he saw this season and would rather something happen now than at the end of the season, close quote. Oh, there's more. SNY's Ian Begley, a former Celtic, and Corey Hirsch provided a similar account. They didn't name names. They didn't specifically name Irving, but reported, quote, some Nets players felt that Atkinson lost a portion of the locker room recently. Gee, I wonder which portion that is. Close that quote. Atkinson built a more regimented culture with the goal of making the whole greater than the sum of its parts. Let me read that again. During his first 3 seasons, Atkinson built a more regimented culture with the goal of making the whole greater than the sum of its parts. Translation, he wants players that want to play for him and each other and mesh into a team. In an interview with ESPN's Jackie McMullen, fabulous journalist, he laid out the inevitable difficulties that would come with bringing 2 marquee free agents into the fold. Goes like this, quote, our whole setup can be a bit rigid. We're like a college program in some ways. We have this car wash of very specific things with very specific people. But I can already see it morphing into something it was not before. When Joe Harris was trying to make it in the league, he was saying, I'll do whatever you want. Now we're dealing with veterans who are saying, okay, this is how you do it, but this is how I've always done it, and this has worked for me, close quote. And because of that, Brooklyn, I almost said New Jersey, you're 28-34, 7th in the Eastern Conference, and you're about to drop out of the playoff chase. 29 wins. I said 28. They got 29 against my beloved Bulls, and the Bulls are done, unfortunately. But 29 wins for a team that won 42 games a year ago. Let me pose a question. Are y'all missing D'Angelo Russell right about now? You let D'Angelo Russell walk to Golden State. It was actually a trade. trade D'Angelo Russell for an injured Kevin Durant. Russell on his way to making an all-star team, or made an all-star team last year. Didn't fit with Golden State. We all knew that. I was probably one of the few that thought otherwise. But I digress. At the same time, Irving appeared in only 20 games that, while battling shoulder problems that required season-ending surgery. And they're going to make the scapegoat excuse that Atkinson was not a good fit. The Nets, Kevin O'Connor tweeted the following, quote, "The Nets had incredible chemistry under Kenny Atkinson last year, and players liked and respected him. They played hard. Things clearly changed with a new group. Not necessarily Kyrie or any one player's fault, but it's impossible to not consider a star's influence with this decision." Close quote. Thank you very much. Kyrie Irving, you ruined the Brooklyn Nets. You caused a coach to get fired. You didn't cost Brad Stevens his job because Brad Stevens knew what to do. He sent you packing. He sent Terry Rozier packing. He didn't send anybody else that's playing strong under his nucleus packing. No, Kyrie Irving, the problem is you. And you've been the problem since 2016. The end of 2016. I mentioned the shot that made you, and I'm mentioning the shot that broke you. The coincidental thing is, it was the same shot. And you haven't been the same since. Injury prone. The biggest problem, one of the biggest problems that Kyrie has had in his career. Okay? People didn't want to listen to me when I talked about this. People did not want to listen to me at all when I spoke of Kyrie being a cancer. And he has been a cancer. He didn't even play a full season at Duke. Okay? Colin Sexton is better than you, Kyrie Irving. Kyrie was whiny during his time in Cleveland. Many of the media having to deal with him, he hated him. He was always injured. He rode the coattail of LBJ for years, if you want to call him coattails. And then he talked a lot of mess when he moved on to Boston, throwing teammates under the bus. I got a problem with that. And it's been proven and will continue to be proven that Kyrie Irving cannot lead a team. He is talented. Yes, he is very talented. But he's not mentally and emotionally capable. Robert Cobb, one of my good friends, the Dogfather, said the following, quote, "Kind of glad and finding it funny how Kyrie dissed us here in Cleveland after bolting for Boston, only to leave them for Brooklyn, and now they're getting a new coach. All of this before KD even takes the court, wondering if he is having second thoughts," close quote. I'll answer that question, second, third, and fourth thoughts. So if you want to find the reason why the Brooklyn experiment needs to end, you want to find a reason. Let me go back and say this. Stephen A. Smith on his program said the Nets were coming to take over. How'd that work out for you, Brooklyn? The move from New Jersey to Brooklyn, Barclays Center, all the boroughs, all the trains leading into the Barclays Center. Let me ask you a question. How's that worked out for you? And then you sign a supposed superstar in Kyrie Irving, which he's not. And I said he wasn't when he came out of Duke. People didn't want to believe me. Yeah, how's that working out for you, Brooklyn? How's it working out that your two biggest acquisitions in free agency are still on the shelf? They're going to be on the shelf for a while. And if the Nets were smart, they would end this experiment and send Kyrie Irving packing. They would tell him, hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. Why, you ask? Kyrie Irving is not the kind of player you need in your clubhouse. Divisive, whiny, always wanting the ball and not doing a dadgum thing with it. And as I said, this all points back to LeBron as well. It points back to LeBron. But Kyrie Irving has had a significant contribution in ruining his own career. Kyrie Irving is finished. Kyrie Irving is done. Kyrie Irving does not belong on a team. I said it, and I meant every single word of that last sentence. If you were smart, Brooklyn, you'd cut your losses and send him packing. Don't know what you're going to do with Kevin Durant because we don't know if he's going to be the same Kevin Durant that we saw in Golden State. We really don't know if he's going to be the same kind of player that we saw in Oakland for those 3 years. So you can reserve judgment on KD. I tell Kyrie, get out and don't come back. You may think I'm crazy for saying this, but if you want to rebuild that culture that you were finally starting to build, that you were finally starting to put together, that you were finally starting to have without all the big free agent names, and finding a coach that can actually put your team together, because except for Kenny Atkinson, it hadn't happened yet. Atkinson was the best coach that the Brooklyn Nets had. And they made a stupid mistake and let him go. They let him go. Kenny Atkinson was not the problem. I will say it until I'm blue in the face. And I got a long way to go before I am blue in the face. Kenny Atkinson was not the problem. The problem for the Nets still remains in uniform. Matter of fact, the problem with the Brooklyn Nets remains under contract. It may be a 4-year deal, but I think you're smart enough to find a way to rid yourself of that problem that's still under contract, and possibly a second problem that's still under contract, and take that money and build yourself a good team. End the Brooklyn experiment, please. End the Brooklyn experiment, because it hasn't worked with Kyrie, and it won't either. Period. That's Snowman's take. What's yours? Well, that'll do it for this latest and greatest edition of the program. I want to thank you for joining me. The podcast edition will be available 1 hour after this show has wrapped up, and we're wrapping up right now. Don't forget to log on to snowmandigitalmedia.com. Find out where you can follow us for all of our social media. Use SNW Digital Media for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest. And we invite you to become a patron by joining our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/SNW Digital Media. Just changed it yesterday, and it should be active. But if you have any questions, drop an email to snowmandigitalmedia@gmail.com. Our time is up, but we'll be back tomorrow. Till then, have a great day. God bless. Remember to make your next move your best move. And always remember, if your dreams don't scare you, then they are not big enough. Dream big, do bigger. Until tomorrow, Snowman out.